Good evening, everyone. I now call to order the regular meeting of the City Council and successor agency to the Redevelopment Agency and Housing Authority meeting of Tuesday, February 7th, 2023. Please join me in standing for the national anthem. Tonight we'll have a video of Yahir Garcia from Newport Harbor High School singing the national anthem, and then I'll lead you as we all say the Pledge of Allegiance together.
At the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Okay, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much. And now is the time for a moment of solemn expression. Tonight, we're going to be led by our own city employee, Reverend John Began.
Thank you.
Began.
Just John's good. Will you bow with me? Father, we want to thank you for this day, for the love and the grace, and especially the patience that you have with each and every one of us. Father, we seek your favor and blessing upon the city of Costa Mesa. We ask that you watch over our leaders, the Mayor John Stevenson, our city council members, and their families. May they look at serving you with the best intention and integrity of their hearts in this city. We have an amazing body of people, Father, who serve this city, and we ask that you bless them. Be with Lorianne, our city manager. Give her a renewed spirit to serve, catch her breath as she is healing from her injuries, and just bring life into her and to all our leaders. I especially pray for Nate tonight as he gives his presentation dealing with the homelessness. I thank you for bringing him into Costa Mesa. He is true blessing to many people with his leadership, his heart, and willingness to serve at all cost. Father, we seek to do your will, to be leaders that lead with love and grace and wisdom. I pray that we are a city that is united together to serve each other and to be good neighbors with love and compassion for one another. I especially pray for those who are experiencing homelessness as they come from a place of brokenness, hurt, and pain, and that you heal them. Heal and restore their hearts. Help them see a new way to look at life with a new lens and with a new heart. Father, I pray you be with our police officers and the fire department as they serve this city, putting their life on the line every time they put on their uniform. We are blessed to have each and every one of them who serve this city. I just thank you, for it's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. So let's wait just a little second. John, so I just wanted you to hear that. I want everybody to hear this because I was going to mention it in my council remarks, but you're going to be gone in 30 seconds. Oh. Just yesterday, Councilmember Gameros and our city manager, Lorianne Farrell Harrison, and Robin Grant, who's a new city council member at Newport Beach, took a tour of the shelter. And of course, Nate Robbins was there as well, and John led us on the tour. And John basically, for the city of Costa Mesa, runs the shelter. And it was remarkable. The tour was remarkable. You're doing a terrific job. And Councilmember Grant was very impressed. And so I just want to say thank you for what you're doing and give you a round of applause. Okay, now we can do our roll call.
Okay. Councilmember Chavez? Here. Councilmember Gameros? Here. Councilmember Harper?
Here.
Councilmember Marr is absent. Councilmember Reynolds?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Harlan? Here. Mayor Stevens?
Here. Thank you very much. Ms. Barlow, do you have a city attorney closed session report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No reportable action was taken in closed session this evening.
All right, so we have one presentation today, and it's for Black History Month. Every February, we celebrate and honor the contributions and sacrifices of Black Americans who have helped shape our nation's history. Black History Month is a month-long observance urging all Americans to celebrate diversity and understand the importance of Black Americans who have made an impact in our nation and our world. We have two very special groups joining us tonight from Vanguard University, which is right next door, and Orange Coast College right down the street, and it's from their Black Student Union groups. They're very welcome to be here tonight. The Black Student Union strive to unify Black students on college campuses. The club is dedicated to supporting and enhancing the college experience of all students. And tonight, we're going to hear from Vanguard University, Gabrielle Daniels, and from Orange Coast College, Kaylee Mazzaro, and they're going to receive the proclamations and make some remarks. They can move onto the podium, and I'm going to read a little excerpt from the proclamation that we're going to be presenting. Black History Month is a time for all Americans to reflect on both the history and teachings of Black Americans and to focus on the progress, richness, and diversity of Black American achievements. And it is a moral imperative that each of us learns about, sheds light upon, and condemns the inhumanity, injustices, and inequities that Black Americans have and continue to experience, so that each of us takes action to realize true reforms in our society. The city of Costa Mesa is proud to honor the history and contributions of Black Americans in our community throughout our state and our nation. I encourage all residents to join me in celebrating our community's diversity and character, and to continue working towards equality, freedom, and justice. Now, Gabrielle and Kaylee, if you want to say a few words, and then we'll present the proclamation. We'll take a big photo, so you can come on up to the podium. I'll turn the mic on for you. Is the podium mic? Yeah, the podium mic's on.
Thank you for having us. This is OCC. I'm Kaylee Mariela Mizero. I'm the BSU president at Orange Coast College, and we thank the City Council for thinking of Black Student Union at OCC, and we look forward to your support in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
First, we would like to appreciate Mayor John Stevens for this invitation and proclamation. Thank you. My name is Gabrielle Daniels, and I'm a first year at Vanguard University. The Black Student Union is housed within the Intercultural Student Program, ISP, at Vanguard, and ISP exists to educate, celebrate, and promote intercultural engagement. Specifically, BSU is a place for Black students on campus, as well as engaging the campus community at large and celebrating the beauty of Black culture. BSU is also dedicated to supporting and enhancing the college experience of Black students and community members. We host a number of events throughout the year, but we're most proud of our Black History Month annual Blackout Dinner, and this year it will be held on Thursday, February 28th at 6 p.m. And we would like to extend our invitation to you, Mayor Stevens, and your guests. Thank you again for this proclamation, and BSU continues to be committed to our campus and community.
All right, thank you very much. So now the council, we're going to take a photograph, and then everybody from the group can come up and participate in the photo. Vanguard, my left hand, OCC in my right hand.
It could be a song.
Okay, now we're going to move to public comments. So public comments are about anything on the consent calendar or anything other than what is on our individual agenda items, the new, the old business, and the public hearings. For public comment, we're going to go in the chambers first. Please line up at both podiums. You get 3 minutes. At 2 minutes, you'll hear a sound, and then that's your cue to wrap it up within the next minute. Once we're done with the speakers inside the chambers, we'll go to the folks on Zoom. And as to those on Zoom, if you want to speak, press star 9 or the hand raise function. And then when it's your time to speak, press star 6. And the same will apply to you. You'll hear a beep at 2 minutes, then please wrap it up. The difference is in the chambers, your mic cuts off, and on Zoom, I have to cut you off with my voice cue. So other than that, same thing. Ms. McDonald, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Well, it's February 7th, 2023. Do you know where your housing element is? Costa Mesa is still non-compliant. I don't know why some of you talk like we're done with it, but looking at the recent letter from the state, I see we're anything but. Now that you've all had a chance to do your touchdown dances, I'd like to give a recap of the election from the viewpoint of one of the voters. A lot of money was spent by the city and the out-of-town developers who backed PACs in support of Measure K. The opposition grassroots effort received its meager funds from local residents and business owners. You would think with the city and the PACs' big war chest, it would have been a lopsided victory. It wasn't. In fact, you had to go mining for votes by curing deficient ballots. You said you were proud of this effort because the work done to cure the votes was to make sure that everyone's vote counted. Well, was that everyone or just those in favor of Measure K? Because it sure seems like you were selective in the votes you cured. You claim to be promoting democracy, but it seems more like gaming the system to me. It's your right to go after the votes you wanted, but it's also unfair because the opposition wasn't made aware of this opportunity until it was too late. But then the opposition didn't have the overflowing bank accounts that could have bought a consultant for advice. But then Measure K ended up passing by a scant 22 votes. That means half the voters didn't vote for it. And if the opposition had the resources you did to cure the ballots, had the opposition had the big bankroll behind it, was able to get its message out to more of the voters, and had the residents known that the next step will be to remove voter approval in residential neighborhoods without any visioning or planning by the city, then I suspect the results would have been different, a lot different. Not just Measure K race, but other races. Which brings to mind a question I've had for some time now. Since the citizens of Costa Mesa voted to put you up on the dais, but half of the voters voted against Measure K, how do you intend to represent that half? Who will give a voice to those who disagreed with your ballot measure? Or will it just be that half goes unrepresented by you for the next 2 years? Think about that and let us know. Finally, a city ethics policy is long overdue. This was recommended many years ago by auditors, but it was never adopted, neither for the city staff nor the city council. We need policies for both, along with a code of conduct for the city council. In addition, there needs to be a method of enforcement. The public needs to have confidence that no city council member will behave in a less than civil way towards them when they come to this podium to speak. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Council. Jay Humphrey, Costa Mesa resident. First, Happy New Year. It's a little late, but I've been out of town and stuff, so I've missed a couple of meetings, but Happy New Year to you all. A good way to get it started. Secondarily, I'd like to thank the city once again. My annual comments, I'm not listening to the ball game. I'm actually listening to the council because of a service the city provides the people of this community for hearing disabled by giving them a way to hear what's going on the mics. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate the city doing that. Having said all those things too, I'd like to thank Councilmember Reynolds for correcting me at a meeting of the Mobile Home Park Association, Mobile Home Park Committee, pardon me, where I had made comment about being concerned about what might happen to mobile home parks because of Measure K being passed. And she let me know that there were no city mobile home parks actually in the zone allowed for Measure K. Even though the map looks like they're there, you have to go on the interactive chart to figure out that all mobile home parks are not covered by Measure K, which is a wonderful thing. What's not being said is that a number of those mobile home parks are surrounded by pieces of property that are in those zones. Look at Harbor Boulevard. In one area, the entire block, except for one parcel, is in the zone, which means if those are going to be multi-use projects, i.e. they're going to have business on the bottom and housing on the top, to accomplish any kind of size, they're going to be at minimum 4 stories. Oh, and of course there is in the general plan an admonition not to go above 4 stories south of the 405 freeway, unless of course you're a parking lot and they can go 5 stories because it's not taller than a 4-story building. And then the next building becomes 5 stories in housing. So just keep in mind that 4 stories right beside your mobile home park may have some adverse effects on sun and shading and what have you. So, whether or not you're directly affected, i.e. your property can go away, you will be ancillarily affected as this council increases the density on the properties beside them. And that's what Measure K was all about. I appreciate that it has passed. While I don't like the fact it's passed, you all know I was against it. But the truth is it is passed. So you guys are going to now live to your word about making affordable housing show up in this city in a fairly good amount. Oh, that's that affordable housing inclusionary housing pact. Let's see it happen. Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Martin.
Good evening. I want to thank the city and city staff, specifically Public Works, for taking the bull by the horn and by lowering speed limits in bunches of streets in our town. This is very, very critical for people like me and for cyclists and drivers alike. I participated a few years ago in a walk audit in one of the most dangerous areas in Costa Mesa, the intersection of Newport Boulevard from Broadway to 19th Street. The statistics that were provided by the people who conducted the walk audit, Local Road Safety Plan, indicated that between 2015 and 2020, there were 103 collisions. Of those collisions, 0 were fatal, 1 severe injury, and 18 visible injuries. The collision types in that most deadly part of Costa Mesa were 55% rear end, 12% broadside, and 11% side swipe. Nighttime collisions were 51. Wet surface collisions were 2. The collision breakdown, vehicle versus vehicle, 878. Vehicle versus pedestrian like me, 9. Vehicle versus bike like my deceased husband, 7. During that walk audit, we observed one driver make a U-turn from south to north. We saw a food delivery truck blocking a traffic lane. We saw speeding drivers, including those running a red light. I am asking the Costa Mesa Police Department to increase their vigilance and to increase traffic stops in that area of the most deadly part of Costa Mesa. We need a 4-legged crosswalk on 19th and Newport. Kimley Horn noted that 19th Street intersection only had 3 crosswalk legs, and Kimley Horn also stated that speed is the main issue. I am asking the police department to be vigilant about speeding drivers in that part of Costa Mesa. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hello, Mayor and council members. My name is Nigel Bress, and I'm a lifelong resident of Orange County. I hope you all are having a great start to the new year, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak with you today. As we look forward to 2023 and we work together to solve problems and improve the lives of the citizens and residents of Costa Mesa, I wanted to bring to your attention a valuable tool that can greatly enhance those efforts. As you all know, the work we do at these city council meetings in our community is very important, and it's essential that we find ways to effectively share these meetings with our residents. When it comes to our council meetings, we currently face a challenge in effectively searching through these meetings to find what was said and who said what. Our current platform does not allow for us to do that. So I'm here today to tell you about a solution to this problem provided by a local Orange County business, APACE Systems. Over the last 13 years, they have been developing a tool called APACE Cloud Channels, which uses AI facial recognition and automatic transcription technology to make all of our council meetings automatically searchable by what was said and again by who said what. This technology was developed in partnership with Google. It's approved by Zoom, and it is available to us at a fraction of the cost that typical AI tools run for. Instead of an entry-level price of $50,000, this is available at a subscription price of $299 a month. APACE Cloud Channels can be found on the Zoom Marketplace under Cloud Channels. And again, it's the first of its kind solution that makes all of our meetings, including Zoom meetings and city council meetings, searchable by what was said and by who said what. The process is simple, and it is the same as the staff has been currently doing for uploading meetings, the city staff will simply take the recording of the council, drag and drop it into the APACE Cloud Channel subscription service, and the AI technology will automatically generate captions and make the entire meeting searchable. Then simply share that link on the city website next to or in place of the current link that you're using. I will leave a business card for the city clerk, and I've already sent an email to the city manager's office. Thank you so much for your time. Keep up the good work, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Buenas noches.
Good evening.
Mi nombre es Juana Trejo.
My name is Juana Trejo.
Soy una líder comunitaria
I'm a community leader,
y vivo en el distrito número 3.
and I live in District 3.
Vengo hoy aquí una vez más
I come here today once again
dando testimonio del abuso que están haciendo los dueños de apartamentos.
giving here testimony of the abuse that the landlords are providing here in Costa Mesa.
Sé que en la calle del Camino
I know that in El Camino Street,
están remodelando unos apartamentos
they are remodeling some apartments,
y el precio del apartamento de 3 recámaras es de $5,800.
and the price for a 3-bedroom apartment is $5,800.
Yo pienso que ya es un abuso muy excesivo
I think this is an extreme abuse
porque sabemos que en el estado de California
because we know in the state of California,
la ley AB 1482
Law AB 1842
tiene estipulado lo que pueden subir,
states states the amount that they can increase.
pero creo que estos dueños ya están haciendo un abuso
And I believe these owners are abusing it.
y sabemos que la prioridad de ustedes son los homeless,
And we understand that your priority is the homeless.
pero lo que nosotros queremos evitar es de que haya más personas viviendo en la calle,
But what we want to avoid is more people in the streets, living in the streets,
teniendo un control de renta,
having rent control.
porque nuestra gente merece vivir con dignidad
Because our people deserve to live with dignity.
y nuestras generaciones merecen una mejor calidad de vida.
And our generations deserve a better quality of life.
Nuestra gente no quiere venir a dar ese testimonio
Our community does not want to come here and give this testimony
porque no cree que ustedes sean capaces de hacer esos cambios.
because we don't believe that you guys are capable of making these changes.
Pero yo sí creo que pueden hacerlo.
But I do believe you can do this.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, and I have a PowerPoint to show you as soon as there it is, Fairview Nature Park. Thank you, and I am here representing Fairview Park Alliance, the nonprofit dedicated to restoring, preserving, and protecting Fairview Park. And we think that the name of the park should be changed to Fairview Nature Park. That's one thing, because it would let people know what Fairview Park is all about. It has endangered species that are nowhere else. Something just happened. I don't know what. Did you know Fairview Park is located on a mesa top that supports one of the last coastal vernal pool complexes in California? The value of the habitat in the park cannot be overstated. That was U.S. Fish and Wildlife's email to city staff February 2nd, 2019. Here are some pictures of vernal pools on the west side, which are home to endangered species. This is in between the dunes at the Placentia Ave entrance. This was in 2018. This is part of the vernal pool complex 1, 2, 3. There's endangered woolly marble in between those dunes. They are being destroyed by RC cars and electric motorcycles. And biodiversity, there's a lot of assumptions that I hope you guys will read up about. Biodiversity is good, endangered species should not be blatantly destroyed. I'm so glad, actually, that my movies didn't work because you probably wouldn't like seeing it. I don't like seeing it. But I'll send it to you guys separately. So regular disturbance decreases the overall biological integrity of the park. I want vernal pools on the east side. It's not just the west side. There's sensitive habitat on the east side as well that needs to be protected. We have a western burrowing owl that uses it the east and west side in the wintertime. We had a great historic Restoration Day, January 13th. Finally, after many years, we were able to finally plant near Vernal Pool Complex 5, 6, and 7 after it had the DG trail removed. And here is the community coming out. There are so many opportunities for people that the community wants to get involved. Okay. Community service hours are available. We'll be there this Saturday from 9 to 11. Please come on out and help us. Fairview Nature Park is Costa Mesa's home to biodiversity. And I have calendars from of Fairview Park that I came to give you guys as gifts. So here they are.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the calendars. Okay, Ms. Tanaka, you have the floor. Oh, wait till Madam Clerk gets there. She can start you.
All good.
Take your time. Go ahead.
Good evening, City Council and staff. My name's Jen Tanaka. I'm a board member of the Costa Mesa Alliance for Better Streets. So in that capacity, I'm here to tell you first, thank you so much to the staff and to the City Council for your vision in implementing parts of AB 43 in reducing speed limits on 17 segments of Costa Mesa's roads. That's such a huge deal. Not very many cities have actually tried to do that, especially cities our size. We had put in our letter, kind of laying out what we hope the city's goals would be this year with respect to street safety, a aspirational hope that we would get 2 such implementations, and we got 17, so that just blows it out of the water. We are so incredibly excited. And I wanted to just touch on how I think that this just incredible announcement really does open up the opportunity to start talking about some of the other goals too. First, we hope it opens up some new opportunities on these new streets to implement some different kinds of traffic calming. So, some types of traffic calming devices are appropriate for different kinds of speeds, and, the speed limit plays into, deciding what's appropriate. So we hope that these reductions will help kind of open up the toolbox for those. And we had asked for, and I continue to ask for today, that we consider implementing a comprehensive traffic calming policy that the entire city could take advantage of, so that residents could understand what the process would be for coming to the city and asking for traffic calming devices to be installed on their streets, and what the process would be for actually getting those implemented. So I think that's still a really great idea, and I hope we will look into it. I also think this is a great opportunity to shine light on traffic enforcement. The speed limit reductions are great, but they won't do that much if they are not enforced. In addition to having actual design changes to the street. And so I think that this is a great idea to, start looking at how we can better enforce that, especially around school zones during pickup and drop-off times, because I know that those can get really chaotic. And I think something as simple as just an officer on a bicycle would be incredibly helpful. And on another note, just quickly, as Ms. McDonald actually mentioned, I did notice that we got a letter from HCD, and it, of course, says that we are still not in compliance, which is expected because we have not done our zoning. But I do want to echo Ms. McDonald's requests and ask what the timeline is for getting started on getting our visioning process together. We cannot get in compliance until we finish our zoning, and our zoning is going to be quite the task because we need to get through a lot of community engagement to make sure we're all on the same page. So I think we need to get started on that as soon as possible, and I hope we can get some clarity on that soon. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor. Happy New Year also. I want to thank the Council for their support of active transportation. I think last Council meeting was notable. If you recall, there were 3 active transportations presented to the Council for their approval. There was Placentia 19th, Fairview between Fair and Newport Boulevard, and then several crosswalks. All 3 of them would increase the safety and convenience for people biking and walking in the city. It should be noted that on all 3 of those votes, it was 7-zip, unanimous vote on all 3 of them, which again, I think makes you guys look good and very supportive of active transportation. Really appreciate that. I also want to thank Councilwoman Reynolds for her continuous support and advocacy for active transportation. It was mentioned at the meeting, that council meeting, that she brought up some points with staff on the 19th, Placentia 19th project. I'm sure that project is better for her involvement. I also want to thank staff. They definitely deserve to be thanked. They were obviously instrumental in bringing these projects to council. So I want to thank I call it the SRT team, Mr. Seth Rahman, Ms. Orzales, and Mr. Thomas. So thank you to all three of them. Also, a couple comments from the council members. Mayor Stevens mentioned in response to Jennifer Tanaka's challenge to the council members that he realized it was practical for him to start walking for an errand that he formerly used to drive to. That is great. We want to replicate that many thousands of times in the city for people to say, hey, I can walk or I can bike to for that errand. I don't have to jump in my car and drive that. If we can replicate that thousands of times, certainly less traffic on the roads, better health for the citizens, better air quality for the people here in Costa Mesa. Also want to comment that Councilman Chavez commented that many people in the city, their primary mode of transportation, their only mode of transportation is bicycle or walking. And I want him to know that the Active Transportation Committee is very cognizant of that. We keep that in our thinking about which projects we support or give priority to. We realize that a lot of people rely on their bicycles or the walking, and their primary means of transportation. Also, similarly, Councilwoman Marr commented about the connectivity of bike lanes. And again, the committee is very cognizant of that. Also, last year we prioritized projects in the ATP, and one of the prime factors in using that prioritization was the connectivity of those projects. We don't want bike lanes as an island. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor Stevens, City Council members. My name is Andrew Barnes. A quick comment on West 19th Street. We have Someone Cares Soup Kitchen. They've done an exemplary job of servicing their clientele over the pandemic period, and they've done that by providing to-go packages. Unfortunately, now that the pandemic has abated somewhat, and we have the pending revocation of the emergency response from the governor, the practice of serving to-go packages, including plastic and styrofoam containers, is continuing. And that leads to that clientele, instead of eating inside at a table with chairs, they now eat on the sidewalk up against the businesses and their buildings. To compound matters, if you walk down that section of 19th Street, there are 0 trash cans in the municipal rights of way. I think that we should urge the soup kitchen maybe to reopen their doors for the humane condition of allowing somebody to eat their meal with dignity, not on the street, as well as find some suitable locations on the street for trash receptacles. That was all I was going to say, except that Ms. Martin had a very, very poignant request of the police department, and unfortunately I have not done my homework, so I don't know the programs that you have. But if you need another resident's voice to urge you to control excessive speeds and loud vehicles on our rights of ways, thoroughfares, I'd add my voice to that. Thank you.
All right. So we have one more speaker in the chambers. If anybody else wishes to speak, please step forward. Ms. Spadoni, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You always never surprise me that you always mention my name when I never mention my name, but thank you for reminding me what my name is. I'm following up on Cynthia McDonald's comment regarding K. And K, you know, for a fast update, as she already said, had basically a 50-50 split of the city, except for 22 votes. Now, the developers put in tons of money, 150,000 plus that we know of, who knows how much more. The Democratic Club put money in and flyers, and the city itself, of course, supported their own disaster of a K, which we'll discuss later. But anyway, the one thing, we've put in some public information requests to see how this all came to pass, because as residents, it just got plopped in our lap, like, surprise, here it is, we're gonna vote on it. So we put in some public information requests, and one that came back was from Cassius Rutherford, and it was a memo to the city, in the city website, telling about a particular walk in favor of K and offering $200 for the walkers that would walk. But curiously, there was no name to whom the memo was addressed. So I asked again, who received this memo? Is it just like Harry Potter and the wizards? It just popped up? We never have heard that. And then when we heard that Mr. Rutherford was credited with being the architect of K, and I said, wow, good for him. Now, too bad the other 34,000 residents in the city had no input or planning or knowledge and got smacked in the face as quickly as it was. And probably a very smart move on your part, very devious, very backdoor, because the residents had very little time to group and to fight this. However, $7,000 of what the residents raised in comparison to probably $200,000 with the PAC and the city's involvement only garnered you 22 votes. And even those 22 votes had to be gamed through a curing process. And once again, I congratulate you for being so into money and consultants that you had this advice to be able to do this. And you know, the transparency that is such a favorite word in this city just somehow seems to have been occluded by leaving out the rest of the residents. And even the city council right now, there's more staff present than there are residents. People, get involved.
Thank you very much. I don't see anybody coming up to the podium, so let's go to Zoom. Is there anybody who wants to speak to us on Zoom?
We have one speaker on Zoom, Daniel Martinez, please.
Mr. Martinez, you have the floor.
Daniel, that's a new one. Hello, members of the City Council.
David.
All good. So today's proclamation, there's a line that read, it is a moral imperative that each of us learns about, sheds light upon, and condemns the inhumanity of injustices and inequities that Black Americans continue to experience and endure. But moreover, that each of us takes action to realize true reforms. About 1 week ago, a video was widely circulated on social media and on the news of a Costa Mesa police officer making racist remarks to a Black man during a traffic stop. So I'd just like to say, first of all, that the language of the officer was racist, it was unacceptable, and it was deeply hurtful to communities of color. And also, the response of our police department was just also lacking. There wasn't even an apology. It's just we're looking into it. So in the spirit of today's proclamation, I'm encouraging all of you, all council members, to, during council member comments, condemn the racist remarks made and commit to racial equity in our community. Because language like that should not be accepted and it should not be tolerated, and it needs to be called out when it happens. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom? Okay, we'll close public comment and we'll start the Councilmember Committee reports, comments, and suggestions with Councilmember Manuel Chavez from District 4. Oh, are we doing? No, okay, discussion mode. You got it.
Thank you, Mayor Stevens. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I will be brief in my comments. First, I had the pleasure of joining Love Costa Mesa in their Labors of Love this weekend. Really amazing group. What they do is once a month they do a I don't want to say activity, but they do a service act for a resident in Costa Mesa that may not have the means to do it themselves. This week, we ended up cleaning up the backyard of a resident in Mesa Verde, and it was very, very beautiful. And I encourage everyone to get involved that wants to get involved. Second, as you may see in the back as you enter City Hall, we had our mobile command unit outside. That was something the council funded years prior to fit the desire and the need anytime there is an emergency in Costa Mesa that requires us to have that unit. In response to Mr. Martinez's comment regarding that incident that we saw so much on TikTok and on Instagram, it is something that the city has taken a great deal of effort to address. I'll not speak on the matter. Perhaps the manager will want to elaborate a bit further, but there have been actions taken, and it is our course in Costa Mesa that these things do not happen routinely, and they are not something we stand by. So thank you to everyone that's raised us of the incident. Thank you for keeping us accountable in the city of Costa Mesa, and I assure you we're doing all that we can to make sure it doesn't happen again. And to the manager, if maybe perhaps you at some point may want to address that briefly, we really appreciate it.
All right. From District 2, Councilmember Lauren Gameros.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few things I want to speak on. First of all, I had the opportunity to take Councilwoman Robin Grant from the city of Newport Beach on a tour of our homeless shelter. I want to take a moment and I want to thank Nate Robbins for putting together an absolutely fabulous tour for all those involved. We had both city managers there, the mayor was there, a lot of pressure to put something together at the last minute, and he did a wonderful job. So I just want to take a moment and thank you, Nate. I know that's a lot of pressure, but you did good with that. A couple of things beyond that, the Fairview Park was brought up and changing the name, and it kind of made me think, you know, we have an opportunity here with volunteers, and one of the things that we can do, I know sometimes there's community service opportunities where you see individuals picking up trash on the side of the road, and I would just like to say maybe we can look into, Jason, if there's an opportunity for a community service program, maybe not only in Fairview Park, but other locations as well, where we can maybe get some help in facilitating the rehabilitation process and upkeep of the park. That would be very helpful. A couple of other things I'd like to speak about. I want to kind of go off of what Council Member Chavez said in regards to the comments that were made that most of us saw on the internet. One person does not define the entire police department. It's unfortunate that it took place. I saw it. I didn't like hearing what I heard and seeing what I saw, but I would also like to say that we don't know the whole story. We don't know what prompted a response like that. While I don't approve of those types of words, I would like to say that I have absolute confidence that our chief is going to manage this appropriately and will definitely have a measured response when the time comes. So I just want to take a moment and thank our police department for all that they do, because I know they work hard, and it's unfortunate at times when these things happen, but we need to also look at all of the good that our police department and our entire emergency services department does. So with that, I'd like to end and thank you.
Okay, from District 1, Councilmember Donald Harper.
No comments this evening.
All right, thank you. From District 3, Councilmember Andrea Mar.
Nothing for me tonight, thank you.
Okay. From District 5, Councilmember Arliss Reynolds.
Hi, everyone. Sorry I couldn't be there tonight. I wasn't feeling well, so I'm hanging on here in my bed. I wanted to stay at least through the public comments and hear input from the community and from my fellow council members. A few quick thanks to our code enforcement team, members of our planning department, public works, our city engineer, Mr. Yang. I've had quite a few sort of miscellaneous comments and questions from the community come up, and everyone's been really responsive when I've needed information or when a specific question warranted action. So I wanted to thank staff for that responsiveness. Huge congrats to our Public Works team, who's at the SRT and company. I know that we have a big team in transportation who worked on the reducing the speed limits. Also, huge congrats on a $630,000 federal grant to fund a Safe Routes to School action plan. We've heard lots of comments again tonight on the need for street safety, especially around our schools. So it's really incredible that we got that grant, again, a federal grant. And I'm really excited that we've got some action funded there. Excuse me, a couple requests I know for our resident committees based on some state laws changes. Our committees are going back to in-person. I'd really like to look into opportunities to still allow Zoom listening in or Zoom participation from people who are outside those committees. I think one of the positive changes we were able to make through COVID was really enhancing our technology around participation, and I'd love to see us be able to continue using that technology to allow participation in the community meetings. And I'd appreciate an update from the city manager on when council can sort of collaborate on priorities and scheduling for all of the planning and visioning efforts that need to happen in the next few years, and especially on Fairview Developmental Center, since I know that's on a fairly tight schedule. And then lastly, on the comments, the video that many of us have seen. I was in on a trip when I saw that video, and it made me very, very angry. It's completely unacceptable, and all of our staff, our city council, anyone who's ever wearing a Costa Mesa uniform needs to hold themselves to a higher standard. I think it's easy to say this is a one-off. We're seeing this because it was a video that went public. In my personal experience and discussion with community members, these incidents are more common than many of us might think. And I've had conversations with our city manager, and I appreciate how seriously she and our police chief are taking this issue. Again, I expect anyone wearing a Costa Mesa uniform anytime treats every member of our community with respect. And I'm fully committed to continuing what this council has really worked hard on, and that's making everyone feel welcome in the city and respected in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Harlan. Oh, wow. All right. Okay, so I don't have too many comments. I would just like to say, for those of you that had an opportunity to see the mobile command unit outside before the meeting, that is a long time coming. We've been working on funding that and building that for a long time, and it's wonderful that our police department has that asset and our community has that asset, and it's just absolutely beautiful. It even has the new mobile command unit smell, so that's quite something. On Friday of last week, I went to a gala for the Renaissance School. And recently, the Renaissance School got entitlement to move from over on Baker and Mesa Verde, right across from Early College High School, to where the old 24-hour fitness used to be on Baker. And it's really quite a school. I mean, I had no idea what the school was all about, but it was started by a woman named Carrie Mazzaro, and she started it in 2011 just simply to have a better place for her child to go to school. And it started with 17 students. It's up to 200 students. And what they do is they provide a triliteracy program where you could start as young as 3 years old. And by the time you're 7, if you go to this school, you'll be triliterate in both English, Spanish, and Mandarin. As opposed to me, I'm triliterate, T-R-Y literate. Anyway, so it's really an amazing place. I'm glad that it's here in Costa Mesa, and I'm happy. And they were very pleased, by the way, and grateful for the work that our planning department did to move their expeditiously move their entitlements forward so that they can meet their construction schedule and start next year at the beginning of the school year at their new location. So that was great. I am going to say just a few words, for the most part, to echo what has been said by other council members. Everybody saw the TikTok video? And I got a lot of comments, as you might imagine, from people who saw it on the news. And it was embarrassing to get the comments, quite honestly, and it did fall below our very high standards of our police department and the standards set by our police chief. And we have to walk the walk and talk the talk. We just did a proclamation saying we should condemn language like that. And so I think we should definitely do that. So in addition to that, before the pandemic, we were embarking on a training session for implicit bias, not just in the police department, but throughout the city, including the city council. And there's a lot of implicit bias out there. We all are subject to that, and no matter what, no matter how enlightened we think we are, we all have vulnerabilities. And so I would ask the city manager, we've talked about it, that and I think she intends to restart those efforts, and I think that that'll make us a better place, and we can be more inclusive, which is one of our core values, and a truly compassionate and welcoming city, as we all aim to be, and as Councilmember Reynolds pointed out, that was a very on point. We want to be a very welcoming city. That's what we're all about. So that's all I have. Ms. Farrell Harrison, the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor Stevens, and good evening, council and members of the public. Before I get into the prepared remarks that I had regarding some of our upcoming events, I wanted to address the comments that I've heard from council and also from the member of the public regarding the video on TikTok and the comments that were made by one of our officers. I just want to be clear that as your city manager, I'm absolutely committed to equality, diversity, and inclusiveness in every way, shape, and form. I think I speak for both myself and the chief and for our entire executive team that unequivocally and without hesitation or reservation, there was a lot of disappointment with what we saw in the video and the comments that were made. I personally was hurt to hear those comments myself. And so we cannot speak to the personnel issues as there's an active investigation, and so I won't speak to that, but I can tell you that it's being taken very seriously. And as your city manager, I don't find that interaction acceptable. I do concur with Councilmember Gameros that it's not reflective of the department as a whole, but for certain, the chief and I will be working together to move forward with some of the training that we did discuss as a city that we wanted to do for all of our employees, not just the employees in public safety or the police department, for all of our employees regarding implicit bias and just sensitivity training, which I think is always a good thing for us to do, especially given the diversity of Southern California, the diversity of Costa Mesa, the fact that we are a tourist destination and we have folks coming from all over the world, foreign countries. We have visitors from Asia, from Latin America, from just every continent coming to Costa Mesa to engage in and to recreate and to have a wonderful experience, and we need for that to continue to happen. And so you have our commitment that we'll get something scheduled in terms of that training for not just that department, but just our employees as a whole, and I will encourage you to participate in that as well. And so I just wanted to make those remarks regarding the incident. Moving on to other business, we did want to remind the public, and we had a speaker that came to talk about the rising rents, about our rental assistance program. And just as a reminder, help is still available and is still being offered for rental assistance from Mercy House and Families Forward, for local families that are paying 50% or more of their monthly income towards rent and utility costs. So if you live in the city of Costa Mesa and have at least one minor child, you could be eligible for rental assistance. The supportive services that are offered to help families are case management, and if needed, housing navigation, access to employment and counseling services, financial assistance, and more. And so for more information, if you'd please visit our website at www.costamesaca.gov. And so please avail yourself of that rental assistance. We have federal assistance funds that have been put to these different contracts, and we're here to assist. Also wanted to mention a fair housing workshop that's going to be held via Zoom from 1:30 to 3 p.m. next Wednesday, February 15th for Costa Mesa. And so the Fair Housing Foundation will hold a virtual fair housing workshop. The workshop is free. It'll be open to the public. Attendees will learn how they're protected under fair housing laws, their rights and responsibilities as tenants and landlords, and how to deal with tenant and landlord disputes. The foundation will explain state and federal fair housing laws, discuss state and federally protected classes, the requirement for noticing, security deposits, rent increases, including moratoriums, and the COVID-19 Tenant Relief Act, and much more. The Fair Housing Foundation educates the public about fair housing rights and responsibilities through these workshops, training, and community events. So we're happy that they'll be providing that next week on Wednesday, February 15th. And feel free to also avail yourselves of the Housing Assistance Hotline, which is 1-800-446-FAIR. That's 3247. 1-800-446-FAIR, or the digits 3247. And for more information about the workshop, visit www.fhfca.org. And registration is mandatory for this event. And then we also have another dump day event. So we're collaborating again with Caltrans and the offices of Senator Dave Min and Assemblymember Cotty Petrie Norris and Goodwill on yet another dump day and shredding event, which will be held next month on Saturday, March 4th from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. at Estancia High School. Please come and avail yourselves of these services. We can dispose of bulky waste items that are too big to fit in your residential garbage bins, such as mattresses, furniture, and toys, but no hazardous materials will be accepted, and the event is free of cost for all Orange County residents, and no appointment is necessary. Then last but not least, we know that Super Bowl is this Sunday. We just wanted to encourage everyone to be safe and to be careful on the roads. But on a fun note, we wanted to share that our photographer, Gio Gomez, from Top Team Photography, who took the photos with Santa at Snoopy House this year, has been chosen to take the team photo for the Philadelphia Eagles, which is an incredible and excellent opportunity for him. So congratulations to Gio for that. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Wow, he's going from Santa to the Eagles. That's pretty good. I had a lot of interactions with him, so he's wonderful. Okay, so City Attorney, Ms. Barlow, do you have a report for us?
I have nothing to report this evening, Mr. Mayor.
All right, everybody's so quiet. Okay, so we're going to go to the consent calendar item. We have 6 consent calendar items. They're considered to be routine and will be acted on in one motion unless they're pulled by either the public or the council members, and some of the council members or staff. Madam Clerk, is anything going to get pulled?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right, I'm going to note a recusal on 3 because of campaign contributions from somebody who's getting voted on in the warrants. Any other recusals? No? All right, I will entertain a motion.
Move the consent calendar.
Motion by Councilmember Chavez, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Harlan, in motion to approve the consent calendar. Let's call for the question by voice vote.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros? Yes. Councilmember Harper?
Yes.
Councilmember Marr?
Yes.
Councilmember Reynolds?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harlan?
Yes.
Mayor Stevens?
Here, yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, that's good. Wonderful.
All right.
You ready?
Just one second.
We're moving quick tonight.
I know. Let's see. just go into the next one. There we go. All right, we are ready.
Let's do it. Okay, so we have 2 public hearing items tonight. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title of public hearing item number 1?
Thank you. This is the repeal of an ordinance entitled, An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Costa Mesa, California, repealing Chapter 1 of Title 4 of the Costa Mesa Municipal Code, presentation by Acting Captain Watkins.
Acting Captain Watkins, you have the floor.
Mr. Mayor, council members, city manager, here today to talk about recommending.
Hold on one second, Captain. Let's make sure it's on, okay? When we see the red light, it's on. So you're good to go.
All right, thank you. All right, I'll take it from the top. Mr. Mayor, council members, city manager, here today to recommend repeal of our municipal code outlining and requiring bicycle licenses. The state of California recently adopted Assembly Bill 1909, which is known as the Bicycle Omnibus Bill, and that went into effect January 1st of this year. One of the provisions of this new law prohibits any jurisdiction from requiring bicycle licensing. And based upon this legislation, our current bicycle license ordinance, Title 4 of Chapter 1 of the Municipal Code, is no longer lawful. Now, although not directly linked to the ordinance, but having to do with bicycle licensing and bicycle theft prevention, we thought this was the perfect opportunity to let the council and the public know of our intent to launch a new program called Project 529. In an effort to find new methods and technologies to prevent this bicycle theft, we're launching this partnership in the coming month or so. Project 529 is an app-based program that will allow participants to voluntarily register their bicycles online. They can post, if their bicycle ever becomes stolen, they can post information about their stolen property and notify other users to be on the lookout for that. It's kind of like the next door for app for bicyclists, so to speak. Project 529, important things to know about it. This program is completely free to the public. It is completely voluntary. The police department will not be taking any enforcement action based upon licensing requirements with this program. But we will utilize this app to check for stolen bicycles that are booked into property or evidence. Also, it can be used in the field to try to identify stolen property and reunify that with victims who had their bicycles stolen. We'll also be providing free, what are called 529 shields, photos attached there, when people get their bicycle registered as a possible deterrent. Therefore, getting back to the repeal of the ordinance, we're recommending that staff introduce this ordinance for first reading to repeal Chapter 1, Title 4 of the Municipal Code to comply with current California law.
Thank you, Captain. Council, do you have any questions of Captain Watkins? I don't see any. Let's open it up for a public comment. Yes, ma'am.
I'll make this brief. I just want to thank you for bringing this up and to thank the police department for their proactive enactment of the change in California law. It is a remarkable accomplishment whenever you get to do the rarest of things, which is to actually repeal unnecessary laws. That's incredibly rare. And as a lawyer, it's incredibly wonderful, actually. So this law in particular, my colleague, David Martinez, I think brought it to everyone's attention originally, was being enforced disproportionately if it was being enforced at all. And I think that the agenda report, I think, very well lays out that this particular law was just not being used for what it was intended to be used. It was intended as a public service to encourage people to register their bicycles so that we could deter theft, and unfortunately that just was not happening. And what was actually happening was it was being, I think for better or for worse, used kind of as like a loitering law to kind of help enforce against people to move along if there was nothing else available. So I think that it's great that we're doing this. It's a really small thing at the end of the day, but I think it's an incredibly positive thing, and I hope that we don't stop here. I think that these sorts of little rules that we think are a really good idea, when we put them in, if they don't really work out, we kind of forget about them, but they still kind of linger there and cause problems. So I hope we continue to look at our entire code, not just with respect to bicycles, and to make sure that everything's actually working and not having kind of unintended consequences as this one did. So thank you, and thank you to the police department for their hard work on this particular issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Humphrey, it doesn't matter to me. You guys figure it out. You want to go first, Ms. McDonald? But run her clock, though.
It's
Go ahead.
Jay and I have a deal where it's beauty before age, so.
Absolutely,
Fair
absolutely,
enough.
always.
Roll it.
Project 529, I've had my bike registered with them since I got it back, the latest one in 2018. They notify me every anniversary that I'm registered with them, and you can transfer, if you sell your bike, you can transfer ownership to the other person. So it's an excellent way to keep your bike registered and safe. I sent an email, I know Ms. Reynolds read it, I hope the rest of you did too. The memo from the then Bike Walk Committee was sent to you more than a year and a half ago, so I hope you didn't just ignore it, because a few members of the committee, including Mr. Martinez, spent a lot of time looking at the city's ordinances and in order to make recommendations in that memo. And while I support the ATC spending more time on these ordinances, I want to make certain that the recommendation of the committee makes it to the city council and is something that is considered and just doesn't wind up on the shelf gathering dust. It would be appropriate to give the city attorney, have her give a few hours to the committee, get them started in the right direction, and perhaps review the recommendations before they send it to the city council. That said, this is the first step in revising ordinances that are fairly archaic and need to be updated. I appreciate all the active transportation projects coming up, but we need those projects which are going to make cyclists more comfortable riding the road. We need our ordinances to be up to date and modern so that they are protected. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, sir.
Good evening, Council. Jay Humphrey, Costa Mesa resident. I support the action of the council to repeal this ordinance. It's perfectly appropriate. I have no problem with it. However, I have one concern, and I would like the council to think about it, whatever. We have a new toy out there that is not brand new. It's been out for a little while, but it's now becoming a big toy in electric bicycles that are capable of doing 20, 25, 30 miles an hour. And they do it everywhere, sidewalks in parks. And I would like the council to find some way to deal with that issue, whether it's a training issue or whatever, because as it is, it's a new toy. In itself, it's not bad. I don't think it's bad. I think it's a great idea to help people move around more efficiently. Howsoever, I would like the council to keep electric bikes in their mind, motorized bikes, electric bikes, etc., because I've seen them doing things that normal bike riders could not do, bicycle riders could not do. And I'd like to see that looked at and find a way to somehow address that issue that is not in a registration format, but is in a format relative to electric bikes specifically. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. McDonald, age before beauty. Ms. McDonald, reminded me of an ordinance that I witnessed firsthand of a park police officer at Wilson Park writing a ticket to a lady who had her bike next to her on the city bench, and she had 2 duffel bags. I actually took pictures of that event. When I first was appointed to the Bikeway and Walk Committee, I went to Lions Park and observed what seemed like hundreds of bikes in the racks that were overloaded. And a fellow came up to me, I was taking pictures, and he said, I told him what I was doing, and he said, you know, I have almost $400 in ticket violations for not using a bike rack when I'm in a city park. I think this is an archaic city ordinance, and I'm hoping that it gets removed from the requirements for cyclists to use a bike rack when they're in a city park. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I would like to state that electric bikes are not toys. I am a disabled electric bike rider. This, myself and many other disabled people, this is our only way to ride a bike, is to have one that uses electricity. Please keep that in mind at all times.
Thank you very much. So I don't see anyone else coming up to the podium in the chambers. Is there anybody on Zoom that wishes to speak?
Yes, David Martinez, please.
Mr. Martinez, you have the floor.
Well, took y'all long enough. I've been on this issue for I don't know how many years now. You've seen the letter from the Active Transportation Committee, which recommends repealing this. But I'd also like to quickly mention the other chapters of Title IV, part of which Ms. Martin mentioned, that requires a bike to be placed in a bike rack. That's also just whatever we should remove. We should be looking at the whole title, not just this chapter. But it's a good first step. We're removing this chapter. It's bad. But I'd also like to talk about why I started even looking into this. At first, I heard bicycle license, and I was like, oh, this is like one of those archaic, dumb laws. Like, you can't go whaling in Oklahoma, right? But then I started looking into it. I filed a public records request to see where this ordinance was being enforced, right? This was before 2022, right? So I looked at where it's being enforced, and wow, it's only being enforced on the west side. Hey, why was it only being enforced on the west side? That's crazy. So, Councilmember Gameros, I would just say, no, it's not just the one person. It's sometimes it is indicative of a system when you see things like this happening. That's the reason why I started on this issue, is because I noticed it's only happening on the west side that people are being cited for this. Sure, there was a sporadic one, maybe in like north of the 405, but it was mainly concentrated in the part of our city, which is mainly communities of color. So I really appreciate that we're repealing this ordinance, especially since I've been on this for like 3 years now. I'm sure a bunch of members and former members of the Parks Commission can tell you how much they enjoyed listening to me talk about this issue every month at their commission meetings. But it's not over with this. We need to take a look at chapters 2 and 3 of Title IV, because those are also a bit outdated. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else on Zoom?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we'll close public comment, and I will entertain a motion on this item.
Move that recommendation.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Chavez, second by Councilmember Mar. Do you have anything to say about your motion?
No, I mean, it's good to be compliant with state law, but I think, again, Mr. Martinez is a good point, which is sometimes we have outdated laws, and sometimes we have laws that are targeting certain populations more than others. So I think it's good that we're modernizing ourselves and following state law and making sure that that's not possible anymore.
Right.
Second, and I agree with many of the speakers, we should be looking at the remainder of Title IV. So didn't expect that to come now because I know we're trying to comply with state law, but I would like us to take another look at that and, bring it forward sometime this year. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. It's important to take the initiative. It's one thing to follow state law. It's the other one it's another thing to be a leader in streamlining our ordinances where appropriate. Okay, let's call for the question.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Reynolds would like to
Oh,
speak.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Reynolds.
Hi, no, that's okay. I was going to ask if we needed to add to that motion direction to have staff look at the additional chapters based on the comments. If the city manager thinks we need that, I wanted to sort of express my support of that as well. There's some other state laws related to decriminalizing jaywalking as well that needs to be updated. So there's some state laws that we still need to adjust to. And then I fully agree with the comments related to other aspects of the code that may be outdated.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, of course.
I believe that Acting Captain Watkins and I will get right on that.
Okay, so the question is,
Don't need to
question
do
is
this.
whether we need to add it.
You do not. We're on it already.
Motion is saying no, so let's move forward. What about Councilmember Harper? Do you have anything you would like to add?
No, thank you.
Okay, good stuff. All right, let's call for the question by voice vote.
Councilmember Reynolds?
Yes.
Councilmember Marr? Yes. Councilmember Harper?
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harlan? Yes. Mayor Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay.
Great. Now we're on
Moving on to public hearing item number 2. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title?
Yes, thank you. An ordinance entitled, An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Costa Mesa, California, approving Code Amendment C0-2023, amending Chapter 5, Article 1, Section 13-35, accessory dwelling units of Title 13 of the Costa Mesa Municipal Code to modify standards to conform with recent revisions to state law and to clarify existing accessory dwelling unit provisions to improve ADU processing. Presentation by Mr. Yeager, Associate Planner.
Mr. Yeager, it's good to see you, and you have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. It's great to be here tonight. So the purpose of this code amendment, it is to comply with state law and to clarify provisions of the existing ADU standards. What is an ADU? ADUs have historically been allowed within the city of Costa Mesa, along with other similar uses such as granny flats. And these have either been permitted or conditionally permitted uses. Currently, the city allows for ADUs on all residentially zoned lots, which can be established through new construction or the conversion of existing floor area. ADUs are subject to specific development standards, including regulating the number of units, the floor area, setbacks, and height. In regulating ADUs, the city intends to ensure that ADUs remain an accessory use to single-family and multifamily residences and to ensure that ADUs do not adversely impact surrounding residents or the community as a whole. So state mandates came into effect on January 1st, 2020, which required cities to authorize ADUs and junior ADUs in residential and mixed-use zones. In response to the mandates, the City Council adopted an urgency ordinance at its December 17, 2019 meeting to establish temporary provisions permitting ADUs and JADUs. And on March 2nd, 2021, the City Council adopted the ordinance to establish the current regulations pertaining to ADUs. Since then, we've approved 144 ADUs in the city, of which 19 were approved in 2020, 43 were approved in 2021, 68 were approved in 2022, and so far we're off to a fast start with 14 being approved in 2023. Of all the ADUs that have been approved and are currently being processed, the majority are detached ADUs and the majority are located on single-family properties. The average square footage of these ADUs is about 640 square feet, with the smallest being approved at 152 square feet and the largest being approved at around 1,500 square feet. So today's code amendment, it is spurred by a variety of reasons. The recent state laws were enacted modifying the California Government Code regarding ADUs and JADUs, and these include AB 2221 and SB 897. And in compliance with state law, the city's ordinance needs to be amended to account for the updated provisions. In addition, the California Department of Housing and Community Development, or HCD, sent a letter to the city indicating that the city's ADU provisions included inconsistencies with state law. And after several years of implementing the current standards, there have been inconsistencies which have been noted, and they need to be updated for better processing. Finally, the Planning Commission did recommend additional changes in its resolution to City Council to approve the ordinance. Overall, the ADU code structurally remains largely unchanged. However, the proposed code amendments include responses to ensure compliance with state law, including refining the definitions of single-family dwellings and multifamily dwellings, modifying the number and types of ADUs permitted on certain properties, modifying the ADU development standards, including heights and setbacks, modifying standards related to balconies, roof decks, and entries, and removing any subjectivity in ADU design standards. The Planning Commission considered the code amendment at its October 24th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting and unanimously voted to recommend that the City Council conduct the first reading. In the recommendation, the Planning Commission provided direction and comments, including considering allowing one ADU per common interest development unit, to prohibit mechanical equipment within the minimum 4-foot side and rear setbacks, to improve garage facade design standards for garage conversion ADUs, to differentiate design requirements for ADUs facing front property lines versus side street property lines or alley facing ADUs. And they also recommended that there be more nuanced requirements for balcony locations to encourage privacy and allow for eyes on the street. So the images you see on the screen show what type of ADUs would be allowed under the proposed ordinance. Provision for single-family properties remains largely unchanged, and that would still allow for one junior ADU and one ADU. The ADU could consist of either a conversion, attached, or detached ADU. The provisions for multifamily ADUs are proposed to change. Currently, the city allows for a minimum of one conversion ADU up to 25% of the existing units. So if there were 20 units, you could have 5 ADUs. In addition to that, multifamily dwellings could have 2 detached ADUs or 1 conversion and 1 detached ADU. The code amendments related to the compliance with state law are framed in red here. And the modifications would allow for a multifamily dwelling to have 1 attached ADU, and it would also allow for a single detached ADU up to 1,200 square feet. In addition, a multifamily would not be limited to the one
Chris,
conversion.
hold on for a second.
Yes, sir.
So is anybody else hearing static? Like, maybe we, here, I'll turn off the podium mic, see if that helps. Oh, that's what it was. Thank you. Yeah, no, it's all my fault. I turned off the podium mics, everything's good. That's all right. Didn't mean to break your flow.
We're all
Where were you?
Let's just hop right back into it. So the modifications for multifamily ADUs, it would allow for 1 attached ADU, which is currently not permitted in our code, or 1 detached ADU up to 1,200 square feet, as opposed to 2 detached ADUs at 800 square foot each. In addition, the conversion ADUs would be combined with the detached ADUs, as opposed to being allowed to have 1 of each. All of those changes would be compliant with state law. In the Planning Commission recommendation for the City Council approval, changes were proposed for common interest developments. Essentially, common interest development is a residential condo, which could consist of multiple single-family dwellings or attached dwellings on the same shared property. The Planning Commission proposed that common interest developments would be allowed to have 1 ADU per unit from square footage from the existing unit. So that would be more flexible than state law, but it would allow for additional ADU opportunities in the city. In response to these new state laws, the maximum height requirements are proposed to be updated as well. The height restrictions are not going to increase for single-family dwelling properties because ADUs are already permitted at the height of the underlying zone, 27 feet. Multifamily dwelling properties currently allow for detached ADU of 16 feet in height. This is proposed to be modified to increase the height to match the height of the underlying zone. So all R1, R2, R3 zone properties, the max height is 27 feet. This modification would allow for ADUs to be constructed at the same height as a primary dwelling on the site. And it should be noted that the second-story ADUs are subject to the setbacks of the underlying zone. So there would be no additional impact on the surrounding properties than what could otherwise be permitted with a multifamily unit. It should also be noted that the conversion ADUs have no height requirements because those structures already exist. It would just be converting it into an ADU. Clarification was required for the provision of balconies in ADUs. The current code iteration includes a section which requires a 20-foot front setback for balconies, and then later on in the ADU ordinance, it indicates that exterior stairs, landings that exceed standard sizes, and balconies are prohibited. So in order to clean that up, balconies would be permitted, provided that they're located at the front of the main residential building and have a minimum 20-foot front setback. In addition, balconies would be permitted to face side streets, provided that the balcony meets the underlying zone setbacks. A new provision is proposed to prohibit new roof decks to be constructed with ADUs with the intent of ensuring privacy for neighboring properties. And in addition, the regulations for exterior stairs are clarified to ensure that they are not visible from the front of the property and that they incorporate screening to limit privacy impacts on neighbors. Finally, ADU entry doors are meant to be subordinate to the entries of the main residence and to remove any subjectivity. The code is proposed to be updated that ADU entries must be located on separate elevations than the main residential entry, unless, of course, there are some unique development circumstances which would allow the Director of Development Services to approve a different configuration. So the government code does limit local ADU review to objective standards only. In order to comply with the state law and remove any subjectivity, modifications are proposed to remove terms such as substantial articulation, substantial landscaping, and improve aesthetics. The proposed code amendment includes provisions for ADUs to match the design of the existing building, which would include matching the wall material, the roof form, windows, and any finish designs. And in addition, provisions for garage conversions have been modified to include landscaping that covers at least 50% of the wall or openings of at least 10% of the facade square footage, including at least one door or window. As staff continues to implement the ADU ordinance, staff will develop and provide materials to the public to help with the ADU processing and clarification, including developing a new user-friendly FAQ and a table of comprehensive development standards for easy reference. We'll also continue to coordinate with OCOG for ADU processing assistance, and the city will explore expediting ADU plan checks and will investigate and post any information regarding funding sources for the development of ADUs. So with that, staff recommends the City Council find the project exempt from the provisions of CEQA and give the first reading to the ordinance approving the code amendment. And I am happy to make myself available to any questions here.
Thank you. Excellent presentation. Any questions for Mr. Yeager? I don't see anybody on the dais with any questions. What about council members?
Sorry.
Oh, you want to go?
Just one quickly. The common interest development AD. I guess I'm trying to think of an example in my head of how that would work, especially in sort of a condo arrangement. I don't know. Do we have an example? I love your diagram, by the way. The slide that showed the various images of ADUs next to houses. That was very cool. But yeah, I guess I'm trying to get my head around an example of where the common interest development might make sense in our city.
Sure, so that's a great question. So the screen that's in front of you now, it's obviously different types of developments throughout the city. The one on the right, that is a common interest development. So there are, 10 single-family dwellings. They're on the same property. Under state law, they would be allowed to have one ADU on the property. With the proposed amendments, each and every one of these units could convert existing square footage into an ADU. So whether that's a portion of one of the floors, a garage, each and every unit could have an ADU.
Okay, so maybe east side where we've got the long skinny lots with almost identical looking kind of bungalows next to each other. Some of them have garages. You could do, okay. Because there's not a lot of room looking at this image, right? Like where would they even go and how would that work?
Yep. So the regulations as proposed are just to convert existing square footage.
Okay, thank you. That's an important clarification. Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
On Zoom, council members Harper and Reynolds, do you wish to have any questions of Mr. Yeager?
No, thank you.
I've got a quick question. And I sent a long list of questions and I appreciate staff's answers, so I won't repeat those. But I wanted to, could you tell us, Mr. Yeager, one of the overarching goals this council has is to, increase stock of how the ADUs permitted or in process so far are being used, and what strategies might we employ in the future to try to increase affordable housing opportunities?
Thank you, Councilmember Reynolds. I can start and then Mr. Yeager, please jump in at any time. The question that was asked earlier was pertaining to, in terms of the number of ADUs, how are these ADUs being used? Were they being used for extended family or as rentals? So at the moment, we are tracking most of our permits manually via spreadsheets. Through the launch of our LMS system in July, we'll have that in a more automated fashion and allow us to collect data that's a little more specific to these sites and specific to the use of ADUs. Based on the data that we have today, the majority of the ADUs approved in Costa Mesa are used for rentals, but a good portion are also used for extended family members. Our intention moving forward is to update the website pending council's approval of the ordinance this evening, to post frequently asked questions and some responses that we think will be very helpful to the community, and to update our applications to get a little more information about the use of ADUs and also where those ADUs are falling on the spectrum of affordable housing. Many ADUs are more affordable by the virtue of the size and the location, but certainly we're looking for a little more data and therefore some more opportunities to improve our ADU program in that regard. So we look forward to the next steps and posting some new information for our community.
Anything to add?
She hit it. She got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Okay. I'm sorry. Were you done, Councilmember Reynolds?
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Harper, did you have anything?
No, thank you, John.
Okay. So my only question is, there's a lot of discussion here about converting garages, and this is just a stupid basic question, but don't we have a requirement in some of our zones that residences have garages?
Excellent question. So
I thought it was a stupid question. Thank you.
The parking requirements for main residences still apply. The ordinance as adopted back in 2021 removed all parking requirements for ADUs. The state requires that if an ADU is within a half a mile of a high-quality transit corridor, that we cannot require parking. And it's the vast majority of the city is within that area. So the council decided that they would just remove all parking requirements for ADUs. In terms of ADUs taking the place of required parking for other residences, the state says that if an ADU is taking that place, we cannot require replacement parking.
Okay. So we might have to have a garage, but if we replace it with an ADU, we don't have to have a garage anymore.
Correct.
Right. So if I just want to just make some kind of funky man cave in my garage, that's a violation. But if I go the next step and make it an ADU, then I can have my man cave.
Then you could increase the city supply of housing by 1 with your man cave. Yes.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Good to know. Okay. Anybody else? All right. Okay. So now we're going to open up to public comment.
Okay, I'll be really brief because I've been up here a couple times, and I've definitely been up here before talking about our need for housing. And ADUs are a really great opportunity to increase our housing stock in places and areas that we've already planned for residential use. These are places that are already well serviced by schools, by parks. And they were intended for residential use, so this is a great opportunity to kind of get a win-win. And I think we could really add a lot more ADUs, which is why being attentive to the way we're amending this ordinance is really important. And for better or for worse, despite naming ADUs as a critical program under our housing element, we have a lot of time because we're going to take a little while to do the zoning to get the housing element certified. So there may be other deadlines, but it seems like we have a little bit of extra time. So I want to draw the council's attention to HCD's comments in the comment letter that was appended to the agenda back in March of 2022. Is there?
Ms. Tanaka, there's something going on. Just maybe step back a little bit. Just be about 6 inches from the mic.
Okay, like there, is that good?
Yeah,
okay.
That's good. We can still hear you.
Sorry, I'm short, so it's comes right at me. So I just want to draw your attention to the comments themselves from the March letter, particularly about sections 13, 35D, 10, 11, 12, and 13. With respect to D, which is about exterior staircases, HDD had called out our prior ordinance for failing to provide requirements by requiring things that were impermissibly restrictive and recommended actually removing the entire provision. And instead, it looks from the red line that we have made it arguably harder to comply with this now. So we've changed for example, we've changed the language from prohibiting external stairs from being readily visible from the street. Now you can't have them visible at all from the street. I think that actually it's objective, but it seems harder, and I think it's maybe making it harder to make an ADU, which is going the wrong direction. And then with respect to sections D11 for junior ADUs and D12 for facades, for garage conversions, again, HCD recommended just removing these requirements, but it seems like we've just edited them down a bit. Why do we even need an ordinance stating that the junior ADUs need to match the exterior of the primary unit when junior ADUs, I think by definition, are contained within the primary unit? So again, just consider economy of drafting, especially when we're dealing with something that's merely aesthetic and probably addressing a corner case. And finally, with D13, I'm not sure we even need this section at all. Why do we need entrances to be on different elevations, et cetera? Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else in chambers wish to speak to this item on public comment? What about on Zoom? Madam Clerk, do we have anyone?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we'll close public comment, and then I'll open it up for a motion. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Harlan is making the motion. Let's hear what his motion is.
I'll move staff's recommendation, but I do have a question about the comment that Ms. Tanaka just raised, especially regarding the exterior stairway. So I'd like some clarification from staff on that.
Second for discussion.
So my question, Mr. Yeager or Ms. Lee, is that obviously we're trying to comply with HCD. They've been, let's be fair, not so easy to deal with. But nevertheless, they've offered some comments. I just want to see if there is consistency with what's being proposed tonight, and in particular, section 1335D10, the exterior stairway. And I understand where Planning Commission came from this. So if you need to educate us about that for my colleagues' benefit, please do.
Thank you, Mr. Harlan. So the code section was revised to remove the section that it be readily visible from the public right-of-way, and it was modified to the street at the front of the property. So this would allow for additional stairways, say on corner lots, you could have it on the side of the house or on the rear of the house along an alley. The Planning Commission reviewed this section and found that the aesthetic benefits of not having a stairwell on the front of a residence would be a benefit to the city, while also allowing for a little more flexibility to put it on the side or rear, or along public rights of way on the side or rear.
Okay, so is there some discretion we have in that? I understand the aesthetic argument. I tend to agree with them. I prefer their policy to be reflective of that. I just want to make sure that we're not going to unnecessarily get HCD to comment any further on this.
Yes, I think we do have discretion in terms of our intent with this section of the code. The intent really is that from an aesthetic perspective, there's a variety of ways to design an ADU so that the staircase is screened from view from the front of the property. It doesn't make it any more difficult necessarily. It just involves some architectural treatments and ensuring that the staircases are located in a reasonable fashion. So I think the clarifications that we've made took some of the subjective language out of the code and made it more specific as to what we were trying to accomplish. We think that that checks the boxes in terms of HCD's review.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, do you have anything else to say? Okay.
So of this list, especially the ones where we've been fairly clearly directed to remove the section by HCD, are there any that I spot checked a few of them. I didn't verify every single one of them, but are there any that are sort of like that where we kept it in, but we couched it slightly differently, or that you think we might have any issues with HCD on moving forward?
No, I don't think we'll have any issues. Staff thoroughly reviewed all of these ADU sections, and actually Chris worked specifically with our HCD staff on the revisions that we intended to make. So we believe we're on solid ground here.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from council members? Okay. What about Councilmember Reynolds or Harper?
None from me, thank you.
None for me, John.
Wonderful. Okay, let's then call for the question.
I'll speak to my motion.
Oh, okay, you're going to say, I asked you before.
Well, I wanted everybody to get their chance.
All right, fair enough.
I'm hopeful staff will take a deep sigh of relief at this point. I've been pushing on staff to get this done for a while, largely because it's important and it's a good way for us to help build our housing stock. Also because there's an incredible demand here, especially in my district, and we see that with the numbers. I do want to thank staff for all your effort in putting this together. It is not easy. It's very detailed. The presentation was very good and very clear. I also want to acknowledge the Planning Commission for doing a lot of the heavy lifting in their first analysis. I think the recommendations that they offered were very good and very thoughtful, and mindful of the different conditions that we have throughout the city to allow for these. And so I'm just very pleased that we've got this before us, and I am happy to make this motion.
Okay, let's call for the question by voice vote.
Mayor?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Sorry, my connection's not great. Can you confirm that the motion is staff recommendation?
Yes.
Were
it
there
is.
any adjustments?
It's a staff recommendation, exactly.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I speak to the motion?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, we'll eventually get to call for the question, but no, I agree with everything that Mayor Pro Tem Harlan just said. I do want to add, and this is not to minimize all of the work the staff has done on this, because the presentation was fantastic, and I'm really glad we're at this point. But I'm also really excited for the place where we get the FAQs on the website and we facilitate the process of people being able to build ADUs, and we do it in a way that makes it really easy so that we are actually adding to our housing stock. I'm also personally, selfishly excited about the point when we get to sort of a standardized ADU design. So I can pick one off the website that I know is going to go through some kind of a streamlined permitting application process. And I think that's when we'll really see the volume tick up, because we'll make it so darn easy that people aren't mystified by hiring an architect and, you know, hiring a general contractor. They'll be able to kind of skip to the point where they say, that's what I want in my backyard. So this is a really important first step, and I'm glad we're here. We've got a little ways to go until we actually start seeing, you know, hundreds of these in the community. Thank you.
That's a great point. I was going to say that too. It would be great when we have a level of standardization, so it makes it really easy for staff and the public to get these built. Okay? Excellent. I'm glad you all spoke. Now can we call for the question?
Councilmember Reynolds?
Yes.
Councilmember Marr?
Yes.
Councilmember Harper?
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harlan?
Yes.
Mayor Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right. So I think we could press through. For old business number 1, I'm going to recuse myself because the attorney that we're going to be addressing in this provided me with in excess of $49 for my campaign. So Mayor Pro Tem Harlan's going to take over, and you guys can come get me when we get to the new business items.
Okay. Madam Clerk, could you read
Thank you.
the title for old business number 1?
Thank you. This is the retainer agreements between the City of Costa Mesa and Complex Appellate Litigation Group for Legal Services. Presentation by Ms. Hall Barlow, City Attorney.
Ms. Barlow, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We are asking the council to authorize the city manager to execute new retainer agreements. Ms. Sangaila, who has been handling the appeals of our sober living home cases, starting with Yellowstone, actually, has moved firms to the California Appellate Litigation Group, Complex Appellate Litigation Group. Thank you. And the files have been transferred there, but we do need your approval to execute new retainer agreements for the new firm. There will be a change in the hourly rate for Ms. Sangaila and some of the other lawyers, but we will continue to receive the 10% discount for early payment of the invoices. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Barlow. Council, any questions of staff? None in the chambers. Council members Reynolds or Harper, any questions?
No questions.
Okay.
And I'd like to state that Councilmember Harper is no longer on Zoom.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay. I'll open up for public comment. If there's anybody in chambers who wishes to comment on this, please come to one of the lecterns. Don't all rush at once. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone on Zoom who wants to comment on this?
Yes, we do. Cynthia McDonald, please.
Okay. Ms. McDonald?
Good evening from home. So I saw that the hourly rate increased, and it's unfortunate that you couldn't keep the rate even though the attorney changed firms. Do we have, or can we get an estimate of the total anticipated fees? And a breakdown by case would be helpful if we could get that. And then I'd like to know, what's the city's game plan if the case gets remanded to the appeals court again and the city loses again? Then as somebody who follows these trials and tribulations with the housing element update, how's the city approaching the fact that, as I read the order, the appeals court basically said our regulation was discriminating against disabled persons, and we're obviously fighting back against that decision. But then we have the state telling the city, the HCD telling the city it needs to promote and affirmatively further fair housing opportunities and promote housing throughout the community or communities for all persons, regardless of disability. Is there a plan to try to balance those two, or is the city just waiting for the court's decision and isn't taking a proactive approach in this issue? And from looking at all the correspondence and the public outreach for the housing element, I'm certain that the sober living home operators made the state aware of the order. Thanks, that's it.
All right, thank you, Ms. McDonald. Any other commenters, Madam Clerk?
No.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Ms. Barlow, you have any?
Yes, I just want to address briefly Ms. McDonald's comments. We did try to negotiate to keep the lower rate as we moved these cases along, but unfortunately, we were not able to do that. And given the long service and expertise of Ms. Sangaila on these matters, we felt that that was more prudent than changing counsel midstream, as you want to say. And I do want to correct one thing. The court did not conclude that our ordinances are discriminatory. What the court concluded is that the legal standard for establishing standing in court to challenge ordinances was different from what the Supreme Court and other circuits have held. So we have had 2 jury trial victories with respect to our ordinances. Obviously, we're always evaluating changes in the law and input from both the courts, HCD, and our community. But at this point, it's premature to decide that we're going to, I don't know, change course midstream. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you for that explanation. Council, do I hear a motion?
Move to approve the item.
Second.
All right. Would you like to speak to your motion?
I do not.
Okay. All right. Let's call for the question.
Thank you. Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros? Yes. Councilmember Marr?
Yes.
Councilmember Reynolds?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harlan?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Good job, Pro Tem. Sure.
We're gonna take, let's take a, 10, is 10 enough? 10-minute break, come back at 8:10. I'm not back yet. We're back. We're ready for our, we've got two new business items. And Madam Clerk, for our new business item number 1, could you please read the title?
This is the CDBG CV Homelessness Prevention and Services to Low Moderate Income Households. Presentation by Mr. Robbins, Neighborhood Improvement Manager.
Mr. Robbins, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The item before you tonight, as we just heard, is the requested reallocation of some community development block grant coronavirus funding, or as we like to call it, CDBG CV funding. As you've heard many times at these council meetings, the city of Costa Mesa was awarded some funds from the Department of Housing and Urban Development through what they call the CDBG coronavirus funds. The first tranche of funds came on May 26, 2020, where the city was awarded $668,658. And then the next round came on October 9th, when the city was awarded an additional just over $1.1 million for a total CDBG CV award of $1,836,874. Following those awards, the city of Costa Mesa followed an RFP process, received some proposals, and made some awards to some pretty amazing local nonprofits and organizations out in the community to assist some low-income Costa Mesa residents. So as you can see by the chart, the full $1.8 million was allocated to things like rental assistance, SPIN, Mercy House Families Forward being the recipients of those funds, which we've spoken about again many times here in these chambers. CityNet was also a recipient of some funds to do after-hours street outreach. CityNet is an amazing local nonprofit. We're very, very lucky to have, their names are Hannah and Brianna. I'll give them some shout outs. They do really, really good work in the community for after hours. So as you know, City has our own outreach team, but they work from early hours in the morning, and they're usually off around 5 or 6. So the girls from CityNet come in at about 4:30, and they're here till 9 p.m. to provide additional support to not only our police department, but just our community in general, connecting people to services that need our assistance. We also allocated some funds to an organization called Trellis, which we all know, another amazing nonprofit in the community, for their community impact team. This is a transitional workforce development program that takes homeless individuals and provides them with temporary work, which gives them a little bit of money, but most of all, it provides self-confidence, gets them back into the workforce so that they can then transition into more full-time employment. We gave money to an organization called Community Senior Serve to do both their congregate lunch program and their home-delivered meal program for seniors in Costa Mesa. We gave some money to Project Hope Alliance to do youth support services in the Newport Mesa Unified School District. And then we set aside some money for what we were calling COVID motel isolation. So, of course, the CDBG coronavirus funds were as a result of the coronavirus. And when we had some people staying at the shelter that would test positive for the coronavirus, we would have to isolate them in local hotels and motels. So we had set aside some funds to do that. And then last but not least, as with any grant, there are some admin funds to pay for staff salaries. Of course, we allocated the maximum amount there for the full, again, $1.836 million. And you can see below just some accomplishments that we had through the original allocations. Rental assistance, we assisted 82 households, or a total of 216 individuals, with eviction prevention services during the height of the pandemic, keeping people in their homes, which is really, really important. Of course, CityNet, we talked about, they made 844 contacts. Now, those are duplicated. We don't have 844 homeless people on our streets. These are duplicated contacts. Some take 4, 5, 6, even 20 or 30 contacts before they're ready to accept help, and that's what they do with love and compassion. Trellis performs 3 Costa Mesa maintenance projects per week. So they partner with Public Works to do trash cleanups up and down our major thoroughfares. They go to our local parks and scrape gum off the benches, and they're painting over graffiti and things like that. They do a really amazing job out in the community just to benefit the community in general. Project Hope Alliance served with their on-campus counselors 329 students across 22 campuses, including Orange Coast College. And then Community Senior Serve is projected to serve 170 Costa Mesa seniors with both home-delivered and congregate meals. So again, the money that we allocated did some really amazing things. We're super proud of our nonprofits for all the work that they've done. So the only issue is some of the money that we set aside for the motel vouchers. It's not an issue, it's a good thing. We had another nonprofit called Illumination Foundation. They have a shelter in Fullerton that has some recuperative care beds that would act as motel or isolation beds. So when we would have someone at the shelter that would test positive for COVID, we could send them to the Illumination Foundation shelter, thus saving our own motel isolation funds. So that's why there's a surplus there. You can see by the middle, so the original allocation for that was $138,000. We've only spent about 30 of that, so we have just over 100,000. We're recommending to reallocate 70,000. Thus leaving a little bit behind just in case Illumination were to be full, then we would still have those funds available to isolate some of our shelter guests. And then with the admin, even though we allocated the full 18%, because we awarded those funds to local nonprofits who did the majority of the work, city staff didn't have a lot of work to do, so we didn't have a lot of hours put into administering those funds. So there's a surplus there. We're recommending the reallocation of $274,000 of admin that was originally set aside that we don't need anymore. For a total reallocation of $344,000 to what you see in the chart, these, 4 green highlighted sections here. So we're asking that CityNet would get a portion of those funds, $189,000 to be exact, which if you look to the right under deliverables would give an additional 10.5 months of after-hours street outreach there Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday from 4 to 9 p.m., which is extremely important to our response to homelessness. You can see Trellis, we're asking that $70,000 be reallocated to them. Again, they do 3 projects a week, 52 weeks a year for 156 maintenance projects. Again, cleaning up trash, all the amazing work they do. Over the next 12 months, $70,000 is all that would cost to subsidize that. Project Hope Alliance, they have counselors in the schools. They do amazing, we call it upstream work to prevent homelessness by supporting students in families that are living in hotels in their cars, doubled, tripled, quadrupled up with other families. So this upstream work is extremely important. The extra money will allow them to support additional students throughout the school year. And then last but not least, it's a little bit tricky. The allocation of this extra $50,000 for meals for seniors triggers procurement, which we need to go through that process, so we can't necessarily name Community Senior Serve as the awardee of those funds just yet. But once we go through that procurement process, the lowest responsible bidder will be chosen to receive the additional $50,000 to provide meals for seniors both at their homes and congregately at the senior center. So with that, the recommendations of staff are that council would approve the recommended reallocation of $344,000 in CDBG CV funds from program administration and the motel isolation voucher program to street outreach, workforce development, senior meals, and homeless youth programs. Second, the staff's recommending that the council would authorize the city manager or their designee and the city clerk to execute all agreements and or amendments to the agreements to award the CDBG CV funding in the amount of $70,000 for Trellis, $189,000 for CityNet, and $35,000 for Project Hope Alliance, each for a 1-year term. And lastly, that council would approve the appropriation of $50,000 in CDBG CV funds to provide meals for Costa Mesa seniors, which again would be procured, and then that contract would be awarded at a later date. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very, very well done, Mr. Robbins.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, of course, Councilmember Marr.
can you, thank you, that was a good presentation and really helpful. to walk through what the timing has been, because that's one of my questions. The funds were awarded in 2020. We're giving folks another year to spend money. When does it all have to be spent by, and what happens at the end of that?
So there's an 80% threshold test that we had to meet by June of this year, which will be fine to meet, just based on the money that we had given for rental assistance and the money that's already been expended by these subrecipients that we've seen tonight. We'll meet that 80% threshold, and then I believe it's 2026. Miss Lee, is that? Do you know?
I believe that's correct.
Yeah, so by June of 2026. It's a little strange because they want you to spend 80% by 2023, but then you have 3 years to spend the last 20%. But that's what they tell us, so that's what we do.
Got it. Okay, no, that makes sense. And then my second question, which might be for the city manager actually, is, I'm glad you kind of went through what each of them do and stressed the importance, because clearly they're filling a critical need in our community. I met recently with the executive director of Project Hope Alliance to get a little bit more information about some of the work that they're doing. And I mean, it truly is, it's incredible and it's so necessary. So how do we backfill 1.8 million of critical funds going to very important nonprofits that are clearly having an impact with those numbers? I mean, these are hundreds of people that we're serving with relatively small grants by all considerations. And when this goes away, what are we doing?
That's a great question. We've been talking about that internally as well. What do we think we can do in the meantime? I mean, I think we're all hoping that over the next few years that our general fund revenue will grow to a point where we can absorb some, if not all, of these services, although it's quite a commitment. And so we do have ARP money, which you'll hear more about in the next item when Carol and our auditors give the presentation on the financials. We'll show you where we are with Federal American Rescue Plan funds and how much is left. I do think that, and Carol is the expert on the use of the ARP, but as revenue substitution, which the ARP is legislated to be, there's a possibility that we could do some of this work with those funds. We still have a good amount of money still left in that second tranche of ARP funds. That I don't think that extends the time. It extends the time frame beyond June and this 80% that we need to spend, but I don't think it puts us to 2027 or 2028. But at least it gives us a bridge to allow for the general fund to grow over the next 2 to 3 years with additional revenue as we see some of our cannabis businesses mature. Some of our sales tax hopefully will continue to roll in, which is doing really well. And so hopefully by then we'll be able to put together a program that's affordable that we can use moving forward. But we concur. These are great programs. They've met with a lot of excitement. The community needs these services. And so we'll continue to put everything together until we can have some financial funding that's recurring, and then also continue to work with the state. I think, some of this funding is funding that we need, that hopefully the state at some point, right now they're in a deficit, but hopefully at some point they can provide additional recurring funding streams for some of these programs.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I would, I sound like a broken record, but I guess I would just encourage my council colleagues, as much as we want to, find the next great capital improvement project or start new programs, funding the things that we're already doing and doing them well and fixing the broken things needs to continue to be the priority. Thank you.
So in that, just kind of to pick up on that point that Councilmember Marr was making, when we had our tour yesterday with Robin Grant, we started to talk about philanthropy, because Newport Beach is famous for their philanthropy. I've got somewhat mixed emotions about it because each one of these groups presumably have their own little philanthropic program. But where would be an appropriate place for the city to promote philanthropy to address these issues, like our shelter, like the outreach that we're talking about, like upstream support? We've got a lot of people who are willing to help in Costa Mesa and even more in Newport Beach. So what's the thinking there? We're not really doing anything in that regard right now, but it seems like an opportunity that we're not exploiting.
Mayor, I know that some cities, some larger cities that have have had shelters for a very long time. They'll have a variety of different activities and fundraising. Either I've seen it range from an annual golf outing that raise funds for the homeless shelter or services to at-risk families and individuals. You know, an annual mayor's gala for homelessness, things of that nature, where people pay per plate, but most of the proceeds goes to the homeless shelter. I mean, we can take another look at what some of the larger cities are doing to generate funding. Also, just setting up like a public-private partnership and foundation for those donations that can happen on a recurring basis. Even something as simple as, through our working with Mesa Water and the utility bills, and allowing for residents to have an opportunity once a year, sometimes around the holidays, for the mayor's fund for the homeless. And we would actually keep it in a separate account in our financial systems. It would be a fiduciary account where we hold that for that specific purpose. But, every year, our residents would have an opportunity, and everybody would get it in the mail. They'd have an opportunity to donate, $25 to help for the meals for this many individuals for this amount of time, or, programs like that. And even with employees through our payroll system, some cities have done that as well. I remember in the city of Long Beach, every year, employees would have the opportunity to donate to their favorite charity. And so they'd have about 10 charities that you can choose from, and it would come out from your paycheck every couple of weeks. And even if it was just, $5, $10, whatever it was that people could afford, before you know it, you could amass, between that, the utility bills, and a couple of other events, you could amass, a good amount of money for these things.
I'm glad I brought it up. Councilmember Gameros.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good comments, by the way. Thank you.
So I just want to thank you for what you do. You provide an indispensable service to our community, and if it wasn't for people like you who really had a heartfelt, sincere care for what's going on, we would probably be in a much worse place. I have some questions about where the funds go, and if we can look at, in the future, allocating funds to some other types of programs. And I guess one of the things I would like to see is like a work program or career opportunity, career outreach at the homeless centers. Also something available where we could go out to some of the nonprofits that are trying to help individuals. I mean, we can go and provide housing, temporary housing and food, but we also have to find a means for sustainability for some of these individuals that qualify. And I would like to see if we do have the funds available that we could go out and provide those types of services. In addition to that, I would also like to see some sort of a program where it's my understanding that when individuals come in that need a place to stay, and let's say they're coming in and they're coming off of drugs, heroin, for example, that we really don't have a detox opportunity for them so that they can transition, in that 10-minute window, they can transition from being on drugs, coming down on the street, to finding a place to stay. So I would like to see if we could find some opportunities for that as well to serve the community. I think two very important things, career opportunities and definitely a detox situation where we could put some funds, and maybe we can go to an organization that already has something like that in effect. We can utilize one of their programs. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. I don't see anybody else on the dais that wants to speak. Councilmember Reynolds? No?
No comments.
Okay. Okay. I have spoke a little bit already, but I just have two quick questions. What's the best number to call if there's somebody who is homeless and in distress in the evenings? Is it the 714-754-5252, which is the police non-emergency, or is there a better number to call to more directly connect with CityNet?
So the NHS hotline is an unmanned number that the community can call about homelessness-related issues to report those issues in. Actually, don't know the last four. It's 714-754. I can look it up.
What about if somebody's in crisis? Is it 5252 still the best?
So, I mean, 911, if someone's in crisis, if there's any type of emergency, I'd still default to 911. But
Okay.
the 5252 is a non-emergency police line for completely non-emergency type issues, graffiti, things like that. I think if someone's in crisis, overnight, it should go to the police department. And then we have a really good relationship with the police department where in the morning, our senior code enforcement officer, Mr. Brumbaugh, will come in. He'll get with some of the graveyard guys. They'll relay information to each other, and then our outreach will come and pick back up where they left off. So that's the beauty of that synergistic relationship that we have with the police department. But the PD is going to be the best option for anything overnight. We don't have anybody past 9 or before about 5 in the morning to assist. So.
Okay. My second question is kind of off the beaten path of this, but we're kind of talking about this topic. Where are we with Care Court, the implementation of Care Court in the city of Costa Mesa and the county of Orange?
I really can't speak to that too much. I don't. I just know that it was passed into law. I know that there's going to be a long road ahead. Anytime you're taking someone's freedoms away, it's likely to get caught up in court. But I know it's in process to bring the system up to speed with the ability to take people that aren't able to make consciously good decisions for themselves, kind of take them in and put them into treatment. But I can't speak to that too intelligently. So.
Okay. Councilmember Marr?
Yeah, I mean, it's something I'd definitely like us to look into a little bit more. I've heard that both Orange County might be one of the first counties to implement Care Court, and then also United Way has been tracking it very closely. So it might be something we can lean on some of our partners to either get a briefing or even volunteer to be guinea pigs on some of the first attempts to do it. So I know the rest of the system isn't set up well, but it sounds like full steam ahead from the Board of Supervisors. So we should take advantage of that if we think that it'll be an opportunity for us.
Yeah, I agree. It's was popular with the legislature, and it serves a very specific niche of people that are on the streets who need help and are unable to help themselves. So when it presents itself, let's be aggressive in taking advantage of that opportunity. Okay, so let's open it up for public comment. I don't see anybody here. There's like very few people here, period. What about on Zoom?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right, close public comment. Okay, I think we're ready for a motion. Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Harlan, seconded by Councilmember Marr. Is your motion to
approve staff's recommendation?
Okay. Second?
Second.
Okay. Do you have any comments?
No. All good.
Any comments?
Thank you for the presentation again. Thank you for pulling this together. I'm fully supportive of the nonprofits that are listed. I do know that our money means a lot to them. Project Hope Alliance, Trellis, these are not ginormous nonprofits with deep philanthropic donors. These are entities that really rely on the $162,035 that we send them. So I would like us to get creative about how we backfill some of these funds that to some extent us and these nonprofits have come to rely on over the last couple of years. So I think the philanthropic piece is fine, but I think there's also, there's state and county funds that should be more available for programs like this. That's what the county is supposed to be doing. But I'd also be okay with us looking farther outside the box, like when we get short-term rentals and we're charging TOT, or maybe even raising our transient occupancy tax for hotels and tagging them with efforts like this that we think are important for our society here in Costa Mesa. So thank you. Sorry to bog you down with our broader concerns about fundraising, but these $35,000 grants are huge for these nonprofits.
I just want to say that the one thing that it's kind of a theme. Last meeting we were talking about a lot of active transportation programs and a lot of capital improvement project programs. I think tonight's theme is streamlining. And we talked about that with the bike licensing and getting rid of some of the unnecessary ordinances. And here, when I see $274,000 that has been made available because our staff has been able to, utilize our collaboration with our partners out there. Collaboration, right? That's one of the 6 core principles or core values of the city of Costa Mesa, according to the council and the staff. So seeing that and seeing $274,000, that's a material amount of money that's going to do some really good for a lot of people. And there are a lot of government agencies that would have hoarded that money and would have squirreled it away someplace else. But we didn't do that. And we're taking every one of those dollars and making it count to help people on the streets and kids and people who are at risk and need. So great job to the entire city staff. It starts at the top and it reflects a lot of good management by our city manager as well. So let's call for the question.
Can I add one thing?
Of course, yeah.
I totally forgot. I wanted to add to that theme, which is that, it's easy for us. We heard this before. We approved allocations. What I really appreciate is the fact that you've gone back and taken a look at what we can do better. It's not a static effort here, and that nimbleness and that creativity, I think, is very valuable, not just for staff and for us as council, but for the community. And it's a wise expenditure of our funds, and we're, I think, very grateful to have staff that does put in that kind of effort and thoughtfulness each time. So thank you.
Okay. Let's call for the question by voice vote.
Councilmember Chavez? Yes. Councilmember Gameros? Yes. Councilmember Mar?
Yes.
Councilmember Reynolds?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harlan?
Yes.
Mayor Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, our final item is new business item number 2. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title?
All right, the City of Costa Mesa, the Costa Mesa Public Financing Authority, Costa Mesa Financing Authority, and Costa Mesa Housing Authority financial statements and housing successor annual report for the period ending June 30th, 2022. Presentation by Ms. Molina, Finance Director.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council members. It is my pleasure tonight to present to you the results of our fiscal year 21-22 financials. This fiscal year period started in July 1st, 2021. It ended June 30th, 2022. Before I start, I do want to say a few thank yous. Doing and preparing for the audit work takes a tremendous amount of time and dedication by the accounting staff and some of the part-timers we were able to capture from some of our neighboring cities. So I want to take a moment to thank them. I want to start with Jeannie Fortune, who's our budget and purchasing manager, who started the auditing process. Andrea Pham, our acting assistant finance director, who took it over when we hired her and wrapped this audit up. She was assisted by Ash Hassar, Marie Norman, Dolly Gonzalez, Maria Blanket Lopez, and Marilyn Pellicol, along with all of the city staff and other departments and the analysts who helped put together all of the requirements by the auditor to ensure that our audit was complete. Tonight, we'll go through the 21-22 financial performance and audited financial reports. We'll review where we ended our general fund balance reserves. We'll talk a little bit about our housing authority financials, and we'll end with our next steps. As I mentioned, the fiscal year starts on July 1st and it ends on June 30th. Our adopted budget appropriations in the general fund totaled $154.4 million, and our all funds budget was $197.9 million. As part of our requirement, we are required to follow all of our GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, and GASB's, or Governmental Accounting Standards Board. In the city of Costa Mesa, we have a multiple variety of governmental fund types. Our general fund, which technically is one of our largest funds, and it is where it's unrestricted funds. The majority of our public safety is funded in our general fund. We have special revenue funds, such as the ARPA, capital projects funds, our debt service funds, our internal service funds, and our custodial funds. Our general fund is our chief operating fund, and this is our governmental general purpose primary funding source. Our special revenue funds are revenues receiving from specific sources, and they are restricted for certain purposes. Our grants and our ARPA are two examples. Our capital projects funds, which is used to track our large capital projects. Our debt service funds for our bonded debt. Our internal service funds, which essentially are services within the city to pay for our equipment replacement, legal claims, and technology replacement. And finally, our custodial funds, which are just funds held by the city in a fiduciary capacity. In 21-22 audit overview, the ACFA received an unmodified clean opinion, the highest opinion possible by our external auditors. The city's ACFA is award-winning, receiving the GFOA Certificate of Achievement for Excellence for the past 24 years. The annual financial audit was conducted by Davis Farr, an independent accounting firm. The audit covers the city's financial statements and all of our internal controls. At this time, I want to turn it over to Jennifer Farr, who's a partner at Davis Farr and took the lead in reviewing the city's finances.
Ms. Farr, you have the floor. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I have a few slides to facilitate my communication of the results of the annual audit. Included in our engagement is the auditing the annual comprehensive financial report. We also issue financial statements for 3 of the city's authorities and standalone reports. We issue 2 reports on compliance with AQMD and also the GAN limit. We have a letter that's addressed to those in governance that communicates the summary of the audit results. And we also provided you our internal control recommendations. The only part of our engagement we have not completed yet is our single audit of federal awards. It is in process, and it is due by March 31st, and so we have plenty of time to complete it and get it filed in time. Included in the ACFR is our audit opinion, and as mentioned, you are receiving a clean audit opinion or an unmodified audit opinion. The audit opinion states that the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the city and the respective changes in the financial position. I wanted to point out this year the emphasis of a matter paragraph is not something you'll always see in the audit opinion, and this is to alert the reader of something that's unusual this year. And so for this year, we included that the city implemented the new Government Accounting Standards Board Statement number 87, which required you to account for leases differently. That accounting standard resulted in recording $4.4 million of leases receivable on the financial statements that was not previously recorded, and $1.2 million of leases payable. So anytime there's an accounting standard that affects the city, you'll see an emphasis of a matter paragraph. I mentioned that one of the letters that we issue to you is the communication to those in governance. This is an important letter that's required by the auditing standards to summarize the results of the audit. There were new auditing standards implemented this year, and so the language in the letter looks a little different than the prior year, and it has additional disclosures that although the auditing standards have always required the auditors to evaluate these things, it has not previously required us to communicate them to you. So those 2 new areas in the communication include the auditor's risk of audit areas that we spend more time auditing or something that we think has an added risk this year. So for example, the new lease accounting standards for all government agencies, there's an increased risk because it's new, and so we spend additional time auditing that area. And also with any time you have federal grant requirements that are complex, it's considered a higher risk audit area for us. We're also required now to document any independence threats and what we did as a firm to reduce those independence threats to a level that was acceptable to us. And then was previously in the letter, but still is in the letter, is any significant estimates in the financial statements. So those include estimates of your pension obligations, for example. It's not a known number, it's an estimated number. We're also required to communicate any material misstatements that were detected during the audit, and also any misstatements we found that were not material that management believed did not need to be corrected. And so those are really kind of inconsequential amounts that we might have noticed an error and not made an adjustment. So all of those items are included in the letter that's in your packet. Each year we look at the city's internal controls for the purposes of designing our procedures, and we evaluate the city's policies and controls and perform tests of those key control areas. We don't go so far as to issue an opinion on internal controls, but we do provide information to you on any observations we have when we look at internal controls. So this year we reviewed and tested controls over the city's key accounting cycles, which includes your cash receipting, cash disbursements, payroll, and other key accounting cycles. And we issued in our internal control recommendations 2 recommendations for you. One of them relates to journal entries that were detected during the audit process by both my team and also the city's staff. Ideally, the financial statements at the beginning of the audit would be completely accurate and we would not find any errors. But I will tell you that that is almost unheard of, and there's always some errors that are detected during the audit process. And then we're required to communicate to you that that's an area that you could improve in the future. And additionally, and this is something that we've communicated in the past, is in the full accrual, all of the funds combined presentation of the financial statements, there's an unrestricted net position of $226 million. But if you recall, prior to the implementation of the standard that recorded the pension obligations on the financial statements, that number would have been a positive number. So it really is the implementation of the pension standard that resulted in this deficit showing up in the financial statements. And so lastly, I just wanted to remind you that your audit is performed in accordance with government auditing standards. That requires auditors to perform and design tests that we believe test with laws and regulations that are direct and material to your financial statements. So we don't test for all laws and all regulations, but we make an assessment of the ones that we think are direct and material to your financial statements. I'm happy to report that we did not have any instances of non-compliance as a result of our testing. And this included purchasing compliance, investment compliance, and whether or not the general fund or other funds had expenditures in excess of what City Council approved for them to spend. So that's good news that you had no compliance findings as a result of the audit procedures we performed. At this point, I'll turn it back over to Ms. Molina to finish the presentation.
I want to take a moment to thank Ms. Farr and her staff for all the work that she's done and her staff have done to make sure that they've gone through all of the city's financials and records for this clean audit opinion. Let's get into how we ended the general fund, one of our main fund for the city. Our revenues came in at $165.7 million. We spent $140 million. We transferred about $21.4, and we ended the year with a positive $4.3 million towards our general fund reserves. In comparisons to 2021, you'll see that there's a significant difference. It's important to highlight, though, that in fiscal year 2021, it was the first full year of COVID, where we were still being impacted financially by COVID. However, we still kept our general fund year-end balances in the black at $28,000. For our general fund revenues, our sales tax came in at a high of $77.3 million, a year-over-year increase of about $13.5 million. It's an all-time high. Our TOT tax is almost at pre-pandemic levels at about 8.4. Our pre-pandemics were about 8.9 million and above, so we're really close to our pre-pandemic levels. Our property tax continues to grow at 49.1 million, or 3.3%. We did achieve a banner year of $165.7 million in revenues, the highest amount we've ever received. However, I do want to put this number into a little bit of context for you. We had about $5.2 million in one-time revenues in this $165.7 million. So it's about $160 million in ongoing revenues. Our current year's budget is close to $164 million. So we're pretty much in line in this year's budget to get to the adopted budget. However, I wanted to put this larger number in context. We do receive one-time revenues, and we did receive quite a bit of one-time revenues in this particular year's budget. How did our fund balance end? As I mentioned before, we grew our fund balance for about $4.3 million. Our compensated absences went down by 336,000 and change. So did our police retirement 1% supplemental plan. We did assign a couple of new categories, put $1 million into our workers' compensation assigned category. This is about half of what we would call an SIR. What this means is for each case, we are insured for any expenses over $2 million. So this would cover half of a claim if it were to go over the $2 million. So we want to be fiscally responsible, put $1 million into our workers' compensation SIR. Put $2 million into a facilities reserve assignment. As you may know, we have a couple of facilities that are in dire need of upgrades and replacement. Fire Station 4, potentially our police West Side substation for some improvements. This is essentially just seed money. It is financially responsible if we're to be looking into, we'll come to a bond to have some finances set aside to help offset some of these expenses. So we put some seed money into our facilities reserve. And then $2 million into strategic planning projects, which at the end of the day gives us about $4.3 million in growth of our general fund. I also wanted to make a note that we did deposit $1.5 million into our Section 115 fund. You will see that grew by about $1.3 million year over year in an audited fund balances. That was in adherence to City Council direction back into when we approved the budget in June. We were able to go ahead and deposit that $1.5 million, so you see how that grew to almost $3.1 million in our 21-22 category. I do want to also be happy about the fact that we have exceeded the City Council's policy. The City Council, a few years ago, underwent a review of what would be sufficient general fund reserves of about $55 million. We've exceeded that by almost $2.8 million. Very happy to see these numbers growing. Our fiscal achievements in this year. Like I've mentioned, our revenues exceeded our adopted budget by $14.5 million. We exceeded City Council policy by about $2.8 million, over and above the reserve level of the $55 million that was identified a few years ago. We allocated the $1.5 million, our fiscal year-end general fund surplus, towards our Section 115 trust fund. We fully funded the CIP at $8.6 million. We fully funded the Information Technology Replacement Fund at $2.9 million, fully funding our IT strategic plan. And we secured low interest rate financing for our 2 fire and rescue department apparatus and the mobile command unit for the police department, which you saw outside earlier today. For all funds numbers, on 21-22, we started the all funds at $109 million. Our revenues came in at $194 million. Our operating costs was about $145.6 million. Our CIP, $15.8 million. We transferred out $21.4 million. Operating results before our debt service payments is $11.3 million. Our debt service payments of $3.3 million were also paid out for an ending fund balance of $117.5 million. Change in our net position was almost $8.1 million. More than half of that was for the general fund. For our ARPA, as you may recall, on our first allocation of the $13.1 million, we utilized these funds to reinstate some of our reductions that we had to take when the COVID hit in 19-20, that last quarter. We were able to reinstate our staff hours and our salaries of the 5% furloughs. We dedicated some money for our small business grants. We dedicated funds for our homeless services expenditures. We also funded the disaster fund, where expenses where the city was incurring related to the pandemic. We reinstated funding for the CAN for $2.1 million and for our IT replacement fund. We reinstated the defunded positions of $441,000 and the departmental budget cuts of $1.5 million. Our first tranche of $13.1 million is fully utilized. So where are we today? As mentioned, we received $13.1 million in 2021 to help offset our COVID-related expenses. In 21-22, we received the $13.2 million. Plus, we have some minor investment earnings of about $13.3 million, where we started the fiscal year, our current fiscal year in 22-23. In this fiscal year, we committed almost $5 million, $3.5 million towards our project Home Key in Motel 6, $975,000 for our bungalows project, and $500,000 for our rental assistance program, for an ending available amount of $8.3 million. So to recap, we ended the year balanced in our general fund with a $4.3 million surplus, or 2.7%. Our reserves grew, exceeding our council policy by $2.7 million. We deposited $1.5 million in our Section 115 trust. We secured our low interest rates for our multiple public safety apparatus items, and we still have $8.3 million of ARPA funds available to utilize in the fiscal year 22-23. To quickly go over our Housing Authority financials. The Housing Authority is a separate legal entity formed in the city. It functions as a housing successor to the dissolved Costa Mesa Redevelopment Agency. It also accounts for our city's homeless outreach and bridge shelter programs and operations. Some of the programs that were previously held by the former RDA, first-time home buyers, James Street Affordable Housing, and our homeless outreach programs and bridge shelter. In 21-22, we started the year with $3.7 million in fund balance, transferred in $3.9 million, spent $4 million for an ending fund balance of about $3.6 million. So for our next steps, we're requesting that the City Council receive and file the various audited fiscal year 2021-22 audited financial reports. And later this month, we'll be coming back to the City Council for our 22-23 mid-year budget update presentation. By April and May, we'll be coming back to the City Council for our 23-24 proposed budget and capital improvement projects presentation for a adoption consideration in June of 2023. So as you can see here, it's It's a very busy time for finance, just closing our last year's books, reviewing our current year, mid-year, and preparing next year. So this is a time of year, the last few months, where we've been dealing with 3 fiscal years of financial information, management, and controls. Very proud for the work that all the staff has done, including my colleagues, the leadership team, their staff, and their analysts, and helping us make sure we stay financially successful and we are able to receive these outstanding results. With that, I'll turn it over for questions.
Questions, council? Yes. Councilmember Gameros. Hold on one second. You should.
There we go. Thank you.
Be able to go, yeah.
So I just want to take a minute and thank you. You're kind of like the hidden hero of all the departments here. It's not like we dial 911 for finance and need your help, but we really wouldn't be able to have things like the mobile command unit at, such a great rate, and we wouldn't get, an excellent rating and things like that if it wasn't for your diligence and your staff. So I just want to take a moment and thank you, because obviously you're a shining star we really don't get to look at. So thanks.
Excellent comment. Anybody else? Councilmember Reynolds?
No comment.
Okay. Councilmember Harper, are you back with us or no? Okay. All right. Just real quick, just a couple things. Can you go back to the slide 17? So on the items under the assigned fund balances, workers' compensation, facilities reserves, and strategic plan projects, is that something we voted on at some point in time in the budget to establish those categories and to fund them?
No, you don't. You have not voted on these. This is the opportunity where you do get to vote on this.
Tonight?
Tonight.
Okay.
This is your opportunity tonight, where we present the final audited results and are able to provide you with what year-end balances are available, and we're recommending those balances to be placed.
Okay. And what are strategic plan projects again?
Those are projects through any projects that the city council agrees to through a strategic planning retreat, through that the fiscal year we can utilize those funds. We felt it was necessary for us to set aside some of these, some dollars to some of the projects that you would like to see done that would be held in the reserves.
So, for instance, if we wanted to remodel the golf course, food and beverages, that might fall into that one. All right. Okay, good. I think that's excellent. I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, I hope I voted on this because it sounds really good. I wanted to take some credit for it. Anyway, I think the rest of this stuff we've all voted on. I guess we have to vote we gave prior direction on the 115 trust, though, right?
Correct. That we did in the June council adoption night for the budget.
Okay.
And Mayor, just to be clear, in the ACFR, it is shown this way. We had to select some designations based on our understanding of kind of direction you've given us in the past, because we had to put it somewhere, right? And so, again, on the workers' comp, our self-insured retention for any one given claim, again, this is only representing 50% of how much we would have to pay out of pocket before our excess insurance would kick in. And so we're still short $1 million on the workers' comp side in terms of being fully financially independent before we hit the excess insurance carriers and their contributions for any case that was above $2 million. But we felt like it was appropriate to put something towards that. For the facilities reserve, as you know, we have probably, $128 million, I think, in capital assets throughout the city, all of our buildings, and no ongoing facility fund. And so it's always difficult to scrape the money together for golf course, we had to put money aside for the firing range, but it took a long time for us to get there. This is just a small amount to start some kind of facilities reserve, and we know that we have 2 fire stations that we need to repair, and we don't have 9 million per station for sure. It would probably be 18 million, even with the generosity of Assemblymember Cotty Petrie Norris for the tower. The actual dorms and the stations need a lot of work, and so that could help to get us towards a down payment for some bonded debt at some point in the future, and that amount probably isn't sufficient, but at least it's a placeholder. And then the 2 million in strategic plan projects for anything else that you designate. And again, we can change these designations for this fiscal year that ends June 30th if there are other parties that you have. But this was kind of our recommendation on, given all of the things, all of the balls in the air and all of the different competing needs of the city, you know, where could we at least start to make some progress in these areas where we don't have a lot of funding? So just some additional background on the thought process and for these designations here. But a wonderful problem to have to decide where to allocate additional funding for sure.
It's not a problem. It's great. Then our self-insured retention on workers' comp, is that per claim or in the aggregate?
That's per claim.
Yikes. Okay. That's a lot. Oh, I wanted to make sure I read this correctly. I'm reading from, just because it came up recently last year several times before November. I just want to read this correctly. Page 5 of 7, under pensions and retiree medical liabilities, it reads, the city's net position liability decreased, net pension liability. I'm going to say it again slowly. The city's net pension liability decreased by 82.8 million to 229.6 million. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. That's the only part of that sentence I wanted to read. And I know that's not because we did anything, right? It has to do with the market, but still. Okay? Wow. And by the way, I just want to say, you know, what Councilmember Gamero said, I totally agree with. I think that he characterized it very well. But the other thing too is, I think you and City Manager Farrell Harrison, Ms. Molina, are a really good team, and have over time with the council and over different budget cycles just continued to refine our budget, and with the help of Davis Farr, I think you did an excellent job, and you're doing an excellent job. And isn't this a good team? Don't you find it to be a really good team? I mean, you know, so we're very fortunate. And I'll never forget looking at the city manager's resume and seeing that she came from the finance background and saying, that's the person we need. That's the person we need to interview. And it really slowly over time, this is the type of performance that we can expect when we hire the right people, put them in the right positions, and give them the freedom to do what they do best. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think we can open it up for public comment. Don't see anybody. We have the chairman of our planning commission back there. We don't have a lot of people, unfortunately, to see this. But I know that we're going to do some type of press release, and I'm glad that we're going to do that because the public really needs to know about these performance numbers, because these type of statistics and these types of performance indicators have in the past in politics, I must say, been misstated. And so it's good to get the facts out there with our auditor right here in front of us. Anybody on Zoom?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right, close public comment. All right, I'm going to make this motion. Okay, I move to receive and file these beautiful reports by our wonderful, talented staff and outside auditors.
Second.
I've said it, so I don't have anything further to say. Congratulations on a job well done every day, and your staff too. It's a grind. I know it, and here we are. And it's going to continue to be a grind. We're going to see a lot of each other, and I just always know that we appreciate you. Okay? Anybody else? Okay, let's call for the question.
Councilmember Chavez? Yes. Councilmember Gameros? Yes. Councilmember Mar?
Yes.
Councilmember Reynolds?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harlan?
Yes.
Mayor Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
All right, wonderful. Does anybody, we're done with our items. Does anybody have anything else they want to say or add?
I do.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to take a moment and recognize someone in our community that really dedicated a lot of their life and their time. Devin Clark, for anyone who's still watching, was a dedicated father and an advocate for youth sports, and he passed away due to cancer several weeks ago. He was diagnosed, and shortly after his diagnosis, he basically made it about 7 months. So I'd like to make a motion to dedicate this meeting to Devin Clark, please.
Yes, for sure. I don't think we need to make a motion. I think it's by acclamation. Okay? And yes, let's adjourn.
Wait, excuse me.
Yeah.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Reynolds.
Yeah, thank you. Could we get a quick clarification on upcoming study sessions? I've heard we have a budget study session and then a planning and development services study session. I just want to clarify the dates.
Thank you, Councilmember Reynolds. So our next study session, or the study session for February, will be on Wednesday, February 15th, is development services. I think the following one in March is going to be CIP related with an emphasis on the parks projects that we've received grant funding for. And following that, we'll have the budget for the year starting July 1 study session for that following month. I believe that the mid-year report will be bringing on a regular Tuesday night in March. It won't be a study session, but it will be a discussion on the floor or a presentation similar to what you've heard tonight, but just regarding the current fiscal year.
Great, thank you.
Okay. We'll adjourn the meeting in memory and honor of Devin Clark.